Hey, this is Kevin Kelly, and you are listening to the Stardom Cast.
This is Jesse from Club Venus from Stardom, and you're watching Stardom Cast.
Hello guys and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source for all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I'm joined as ever by an exhausted Matt Turner. Matt Turner, I believe you are running on about 12 minutes sleep. What a couple of days for wrestling.
It's been about 2.5, 3 hours chopped up sleep. As we've literally been talking for about a half an hour, and I was like, Rob, I got Stardom tickets to get at the ECW arena, which we'll get into that, I'm sure, in a moment. So let's get this thing rolling so he doesn't like, oh, they sold out. How did the two voices of American Stardom on the Stardom Cast, how did they not be able to go to the show that's literally 90 minutes away from Matt's house? Well, you see, folks, because Matt and Rob were too busy podcasting about Stardom that they forgot to go get their Stardom tickets. So, yeah, man, I'm good. I think we're recording this, and thanks to everybody that understands that we're recording. This is coming out a little bit later for our folks on the Patreon feed. Rob, being the genius that he is, said, well, instead of recording on Wednesday like we usually do, let's record a little bit later on Thursday. This way we'll have the Triangle Derby pay-per-view and the Stardom Gate pay-per-view to talk about. I said, well, that absolutely makes sense. So literally as we're recording this, it is January 4th, which if you're a wrestling fan is a national holiday. So the Stardom show started at 11 p.m. on the 3rd, and then the New Japan Wrestle Kingdom started around 2 a.m. So I think I slept maybe about an hour and a half, give or take. And then I rolled one show right into the other, and I fell asleep maybe for about an hour during the New Japan show, just sitting there watching on TV. Next thing I know, Bryan Danielson was coming out, and I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't miss this match. Then I took a 2-hour nap, and here we are, folks. Here we are. So I'm doing good, my friend. How about you? Are you running on as little sleep as I am, my friend?
Well, I would have been. I watched some of Stardom Gate live, then I went to sleep, and then I woke up in preparation for Wrestle Kingdom, obviously. But I woke up at 6:15 on my time, believing that to be the start time, and it wasn't. It was the start time for the Rambo. And I don't need to tell you that I have little to no time for Rambos. So I went back to sleep for 45 minutes and woke up at 7, managed to get everything sorted, watch Wrestle Kingdom, and then watch the rest of Stardom Gate afterwards. So it's been a long day, a very enjoyable day, obviously. And then, of course, like I said, we had the Triangle Derby yesterday, that show from Yokohama Budokan. We've had announcements of Stardom running America for the first time as their own sort of show since 2019, and all sorts of news and stuff coming out of Stardom. So it's been a busy couple of days, but I can't wait to talk about it all with you. We'll talk, obviously, news. We'll talk about the Triangle Derby and how we think it sort of fared as a single night tournament as opposed to a round robin tournament. I imagine I already know the answer to that. We'll talk about what is already on the 4th of January, 4 days into the new year, might be Stardom's match of the year. You will be unsurprised in knowing which one. We'll talk about all the things coming out of, especially the show from the 3rd, where they set up a lot for the Supreme Fight show on the 2nd of February, and good gracious me, that looks like a very, very, very loaded pay-per-view if that's the way they're going. A faction breaking up, and oh my god, it's all gone off in Stardom over the last couple of days. But before we kick into any of that, we're going to start with the Stardom Cast Extra, the Patreon. So Matt, before we sort of talk sort of updates in regards to that, would you like to talk about what's coming up this week?
Absolutely. This past week, we released my review of Utami Hayashista's win in the 2020 5-star Grand Prix. That is on the Patreon feed as well. We released our alternate commentary of the finals of I guess last year's, technically, Happy New Year, everyone, of last year's 5-star Grand Prix of Micah and Suzu Suzuki from the finals of the 2023 5-star Grand Prix. And then next week, coming up for alternate commentary, we will be doing Io Shirai's final match in Stardom as the reunion of Thunder Rock, Mayu, and Io taking on the Uedo-Tai team of Hazuki and Kagetsu. That is your alternate commentary, as well as our What If episode. We know that this was due in December, but just with the holidays, we couldn't get it in. So sometime next week, we'll be releasing our What If episode, which is what if Damage Control took on Queen's Quest. We're going to be recording that as if we weren't busy enough, folks. We're going to be recording that literally right after we do this episode. And also, as well, the bi-weekly podcasts for January are as follows. The review of All-Star Dream Cinderella. That'll be in your Patreon feeds in probably about the next week or so, give or take. And at the end of the month, I will be doing a review of Hazuki and Kagama, FWC, their 2 title reigns with the Goddess of Stardom Championship. So that's all what's coming up. That and so much more for the month of January. Now, we did make mention last week, and we did make mention on our social medias. We're going to be changing things up a little bit on the Patreon. So we may as well make that announcement now. And this is going to start in February. So now, Rob, if there's anything that I miss or anything that I get wrong, please, by all means, come in and cut me off or take the hot tag. Like I said, I am definitely, a little bit tired, a little bit worse for wear. So if there's something that I miss or you need to add, let me know. So what's going to happen is, again, this is going to start next month, is we're going to be making things a little bit more affordable. For the Stardom Cast Extra. We know it's after the holiday season. We know that money is tight, and everybody that's ever spent even a penny on us at the Stardom Cast, whether it's the merchandise, whether it's paying for advertising, or whether it's stuff on the Patreon, we greatly appreciate it. So the $25 tier will be no more. We'll be doing away with that. What we're going to be doing is because of, and this is basically a thank you, because of we've seen a blistering amount of downloads. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I think we're over 250,000 downloads now for this for the Stardom Cast, which is just maddening. What we're doing is we're going to be giving more stuff on the weekly feed. What I mean by that, obviously you will have the weekly show that'll come out at your normal time, probably Thursday for Patreon members, and Friday on the weekly show. So obviously that'll stay the same. Our Q&A. We're actually doing a Q&A next week as well. So our Q&A, that'll be going up on the free feed, as well as our reviews. Like I've done the review, for example, Azumi High Speed Championship review. Stuff like that's been on the Patreon feed for the last 2.5 years. Our bi-weekly reviews are now going to be on the free feed. So then that'll start February. We don't know what we're going to do yet. Folks, we're just trying to get through January. I'm just trying to get through today. So those will be on the free feed. Now, the $1 tier, the $1 tier, that is going to give you the podcast a day early and ad-free. It's also going to give you the audio version of the alternate commentary. The $3 tier is going to give you everything I just mentioned, and it's going to give you the video of the alternate commentary and our non-Stardom match of the month as well. The $5 tier will give you everything that I just mentioned, plus the what if, plus the roundtable discussion. Now, Rob's going to be, just because with Rob having a new job, it's been really tough trying to schedule everything. And I don't like doing these podcasts late. If we're going to come out with a podcast in a certain month, I like to come out that month. So these what if and roundtable discussions will either be done solo by myself, or there might be an Andy Header that's on, my tag partner Andy Header. There might be an Allison Danger, maybe a Scotty Wrestling, that I don't know. But majority of these roundtable discussions, it's going to be me and just like a random guest, just so I can kind of, over the last 2 years, we've been lucky enough to make a lot of really good friends with the fine folks at Stardom. So it's going to make for some really interesting content. Now, the $10 tier is going to be the bonus tier. And what I mean by that is, again, you're going to get everything I just said, plus anything that we want to do and add on. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to take suggestions. For example, if Rob wants to do an alternate commentary of a random match with Scott from Scotty Wrestling, he can put that on there. When we're in Philadelphia for Philly Mania, if Rob and I get really, really drunk and we want, which we're going to, let's call spoilers, folks, and we want to rebook the 2023 Cinderella tournament, we will do that and put it on the feed as literally a bonus tier for anything that we want to do. If I want to explain the psychology and levels of Mayu selling, that'll go on there. That'll be one and maybe one for me and maybe one for Rob. If Rob just messaged me one day and said, hey, tomorrow, do you want to do alternate commentary to like the Beauty's Salon Zest hair match? We will do it. That's literally a bonus tier. You don't know what's going to pop up in that feed, but I promise you it's going to be really, really good content. And again, like I always say at the end of the episodes, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast. If you are a Patreon member, first of all, we thank you. And second of all, if you have any idea of something that you want to see or show that you want reviewed, let one of us know. Let me know. I can always do it. And put it up on the that bonus $10 tier. For example, if you're like, you know what, Matt, I really like Night 5 of the 2019 5-star Grand Prix. Can you review it? I'll review it, and I'll put that up on that tier. That's what it's for. It's literally let our creativity run wild because, boy, howdy. And you should see some of these text conversations that Rob and I have. We have so many ideas, and that's where it's going to go, the $10 tier.
I love the fact that you've picked the 2019 5-star Grand Prix because Night 5 is an absolute belter of a night. I think that's Momo Watanabe and Azumi. And it's a great match, really good match. Basically, we've been talking about reconfiguring it for a while, and there's a couple of reasons. Like Matt's touched on, we wanted to make everything more affordable because your support means everything, and we want to give you, as much content as we can for as little money as we can. And, we've seen that people are struggling for money. We've seen exit surveys that have said that, and we want to try and address that. So starting in February, I'm going to be rejigging the tiers. So hopefully by the start of February, you will all be able to get a hold of the new things and stuff like that. If there's any issues at all, just message us on the Patreon and we will get straight back to you to get it all sorted. It wasn't an issue last time. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it's not going to be an issue this time. But I'm slightly skeptical. We'll see. And the other reason is that I think the history of Stardom is phenomenally important, and that's why I want to sort of add that to the free feed, because especially for newer fans. Sometimes it is harder to access that history, especially if it's not on Stardom World. And, to hear a retrospective of EO's, V10, or to hear a retrospective of the Ryogoku Cinderella show from back in 2013, it can really help. So we wanted to add those to the free feed. As Matt said, that's going to start from February. And what I think we're going to try and do is once a month. So this drops on the free feed on a Friday. So what I was thinking was we'd put one on, the retrospectives would drop on a Tuesday. So that basically you've got a constant stream of our voices in your ears. And for the next couple of months, what we'll do is we'll do a brand new one. And then one that we've recorded and put on the Patreon, for example, EOV14 or the Momo one or the Ryogoku Cinderella one, 3 of my favorite episodes that we've done, we will then put on the free feed as well. So there will be 3 episodes of the Stardom Cast every other week. Yes, so every Friday for the free feed, you will get our reviews of the week in Stardom, and then every other Tuesday, you will have one of those reviews, one of those retrospectives, one of those things looking at the history of Stardom. So I'm very, very much looking forward to that. Also on the horizon, I just wanted to make an announcement because I've been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. We're relaunching the Stardom Cast website. And the reason, again, behind doing that is because I wanted to do something that is more of an English language site for Stardom, again, for people who want to get into Stardom. So it's going to be www.thestardomcast.com. Let me try that again. I'm so tired. www.thestardomcast.weebly.com. And basically, it's actually live now. I'm currently populating it with podcast episodes and things. But on there is going to be all of our podcasts, backdated, free and Patreon episodes. But the thing I'm most proud of is the About Stardom section. And basically, what this will lead you to is championship histories, tournament histories, a full roster breakdown of current and alumni, including all sorts of things from their faction alliances, their finishing moves, how many championships they've held. It's also going to have things like their win-loss records broken down into years and into overalls. And it's going to have records, so things like attendances and, how many times they've run Corrigan Hall or whatever. So basically what I want it to be is a free way of getting all of your Stardom information. There's also, obviously, where we house our Stardom Cast Awards. Thank you to everyone that has voted in the 2023 version of the awards. Even more people voted this year than last year, which, again, thank you so much. The results to that will be on our next podcast, so that'll be dropping on the 10th, or we'll be recording that on the 10th. It will be dropping on the 12th of January, and that'll be when we give the official winners. So that pretty much brings to a close everything I think we wanted to say about the Patreon and the new website. So if you do want to check out the website, I will put a link in the podcast description. Just bear in mind that it's not fully populated yet. It's skeletally done. It just needs populating. So I think I've only got up to from current episode to episode 130, I think. So there's about 24 episodes on the website, things like that. So I'll get all that sorted and hopefully try and populate all of these championship histories and things. They're all on Google Sheets, so everyone can access them. They update automatically, so hopefully it's a little bit more low maintenance for me. It'll have tile defenses and all sorts on there for your viewing pleasure. If there's anything you think will be beneficial to you or you want to see, then please let me know. I'm also going to try and keep on top of results as well. So we'll have a results page in the About Stardom section as well. Like I say, check it out for yourself and just let me know if there is anything at all you want adding to that.
Can I say one thing real quick, buddy, before we close out this segment?
Please do.
Oh, what a gentleman. Another reason why we are delaying this until February, not jumping into January, is because it gives me a month to figure out the technology. So since I'll be doing, some of the alternate commentaries, and I'll be running, obviously, the what ifs and the roundtable discussion, it's going to give me a little bit of how to figure out certain things with StreamYard, which Rob makes it seem so effortlessly. So this gives me a little bit of time. And what I'm trying to say is, folks, if I do something wrong or something's not clear, please let me know. I cannot get better without you, the audience, and the friends and family of the Stardom Cast telling me what I'm doing wrong or what I can do better. So bear with me, and if you guys have any helpful hints, let me know.
Right, let's kick into some news then. I don't want to spend ages on the news because I want to talk about the two pay-per-view shows, but there is, of course, two bits of news I want to talk about. The first is some excellent news. It started sort of leaking out yesterday on various Twitter sources. I believe it was at William M. Gardner that dropped it first. I actually picked it up because Scott retweeted it. And it says, per William M. Gardner, Stardom will be returning to America on April the 4th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Stardom American Dream live from the ECW Arena over WrestleMania weekend, and it will be presented by New Japan Pro Wrestling. As I mentioned before, this will be the first time that they have run America as their own independent sort of show since the Stardom Dream 2019 that they ran in New York over WrestleMania week. And if you remember, that also housed that fantastic Momo Watanabe and Utami Hayashishita white belt match. So obviously, huge news for Stardom to be returning to America. It was confirmed officially on the Stardom Gate show today. It is happening. Stars from Stardom are going to be coming to America, coming to Philadelphia. The tickets, it's pointless me saying this because by the time this drops, tickets will have already gone on sale, but they go on sale today, the 4th of January, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope that you guys can make it. Myself and Matt, fingers crossed, Matt. Obviously, we've talked enough about Philly Mania. We've talked a lot about how it would be great if Stardom were running a show, and we'd sort of resigned ourselves to the fact that they weren't going to. But yeah, here we are. And It's going to be great to actually see a Stardom show. If you are going, we would love to meet you at the show. Come say hi. We don't bite. We're lovely. Well, Matt is. I tend to be. I try to be.
I'll make sure Rob's on his best behavior, and I'll be. I will. And again, if you're of age and you come to the bar, have a drink. If you're not of age, you don't drink alcohol, I'll buy you a water or a Pepsi or Yoo-hoo or whatever. By all means, it's literally the least we can do for everything that's going on for the show. But I will promise you, folks, I will do everything in my power to make sure that Rob is on his best behavior.
In all seriousness, it will be amazing to meet you all, see you all, speak to you all. Your support means absolutely everything. But Matt, a Stardom show in America, not just a couple of the wrestlers, but everyone. I'm very much looking forward to this. Perhaps more than WrestleMania, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, definitely for me for WrestleMania. No disrespect to, I mean, the pageantry of WrestleMania is something else. I know you've never been. I've been to 4 WrestleManias prior, so it is something. But considering the fact that not only is it Stardom, our favorite wrestling company, the company that obviously we talk about the most, but it's in the legendary ECW arena, which is, I mean, obviously the building looks a lot different from when I used to work shows for Chikara and CZW in the building, and then when I used to attend shows back in the 90s for ECW. It's very more upgraded. If you haven't been there since the 90s, you won't recognize it. It's literally in the same spot on the corner of Swanson and Rittner Street. And helpful hint, if you are going, park in the Target about 200 yards away. It makes it so much easier. So yeah, I'm excited. I saw that the news, we got tagged in a Twitter post yesterday, Tuesday, as this recording, and it wasn't really from the most reliable, somebody I never didn't know who it was. And I text you and we're like, we have no idea who this person is. Again, folks, I've been involved in professional wrestling in one way or another for over 20 years. It's one of those things that I don't believe it, not unless I see it. So I wasn't sure. Our friends over at Stardom sent me a message literally as I tried to lay down yesterday, just saying, hey, by the way, there is going to be a Stardom show in Philly. That rumor is true. And I was like, awesome. That's terrific. And then, yes, it was made official earlier today as of this recording. Stardom usually does after their first match. They always give you some sort of announcement that they are very much like Arsenio Hall and Eddie Murphy. They are coming to America, sir. Notice how I threw in that 1980s, I think it was a 1980s movie, Coming to America. And if you're not over 21, don't watch it because there's a lot of cuss words. Anywho, so I'm super excited about that. Not only that, I'm super, super excited for 2 more things, my friend. And I may as well shoot my shot here. You know, what the heck? I'm a salesperson. So in between Wrestle Kingdom this morning and us doing this podcast, I had about a 2-hour window where I was going to catch up on a little bit of sleep. And when I woke up, I had 38 messages on my Twitter, and a good majority were a whole bunch of people tweeting at Stardom saying you guys should have Rob Goodwin and Matt Turner either on as your commentary team or backstage announcers to do some interviews. So first of all, thank you to the overwhelming response that people want to see myself and Rob working this show one way or another as a commentator, whether it's doing commentary, backstage interviews, just doing something. We greatly appreciate it. Absolutely. Folks, we know there are some phenomenal people that work for Stardom that listen to this podcast. You know, to quote the late, great Bray Wyatt, let us in. I can promise you all we can do is help promote the product of Stardom. If this podcast, since when Rob started it over 3 years ago, is any roadmap to tell you what the Stardom Cast can do, is only to help to promote the greatest wrestling promotion in the world, Stardom. So if you're looking for commentators, backstage announcers, someone to do interviews, anything, we will be there. Worst case scenario, we are going to buy a ticket. Not a problem. And we will be there at least covering it live from the Stardom Cast. So we will be there one way or another, and I'm super excited for that. Now, again, Rob, I'm super excited that there's a ton of people that want us to do commentary for the show, and fingers crossed, and trust me, I'm going to do everything to beg, to yell, and scream to try to get that dream to come true for us, my friend. Almost as exciting is, do you see who the first Stardom wrestler was to tweet out that they're super excited to come to America?
If it's not Fukic and Death, I'm going to be devastated.
Oh, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you can catch me at Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and the Twitter. It's only the most violent person to hit Philadelphia since Rocky Balboa, Hazuki, my friend. Hazuki.
Sensational news.
Yes, she tweeted out, and then I retweeted her tweet, and I said, Hazuki, are you coming to America? And she didn't respond just yet, but she liked my tweet, which she usually always either likes my tweets or retweets it. So Hazuki, absolute gem out of the ring, in the ring, an absolute menace in the best way possible.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to see her boot someone so hard in the face, which sounds like a weird thing to want. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully we will see as many of you there as is humanly possible. Again, it is going to be on April the 4th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Presumably, it will go up on Stardom World. I presume it'll be on pay-per-view as well for people that want to check it out. See if you can spot us in the crowd. Just a couple of lower key things. Miyu Amasaki was pulled from the Triangle Derby show yesterday, the New Year Stars 2024 show, through what is seen as illness. She also wasn't on the Stardom Gate show today, and I haven't seen anything as of yet that sort of gives us any indication as to how long she is going to be out for. But Miyu Amasaki is added to the Stardom injured list, which is unfortunately where it looks like we are going to find Tekla as well, who in a post-match segment today, following the news that we're going to be talking about when we get to the Stardom Gate show, she said she's going to take some time off to heal. She basically hasn't had an extended time off since she started with the company. She needs some time off just to heal old injuries and war wounds and things like that. She has promised that she will be back, but that is another injury to add to the list. Obviously, we wish nothing but the best for Miyu Amasaki. Hopefully she recovers soon. And of course, to Tekla, who, again, has been so good over the last couple of weeks, has really, really improved, has really found her groove. And obviously, Miyu Amasaki, I know that I've had pegged as the future of Stardom champion. But yeah, fingers crossed, another one who is massively improving in ring, Matt.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Miyu Amasaki. Obviously, Queen's Quest is my faction. That's my jam, especially what I call the Queen's Quest A-plus team, Utami, Sai Kamatani, and Azumi. But when this bracket was announced, very much like last year, you had the Queen's Quest, and I say A-minus team, because these three ladies are really good. Tina, Lady C, who's crazy improving. Everybody really is, and Miyu Amasaki. And those three have been working really well together on the quote-unquote, house shows, the Road to shows. And then I noticed they were supposed to go up against, in the first round, the Artists of Stardom champions, the Berry Berry Bombers of Julia, Tekla, and May Sakurai. And May Sakurai's hat as well. Let's call it like we see it. Pretty much a handicap match. So I was really looking forward to that. I figured the DDM team would have went through. But Julia, as she always does, she does a great job taking the mid-card wrestlers and shining them up in their matches. So that was a match I was really looking forward to in the first round. Unfortunately, Miyu Amasaki came down with an illness and was off these shows and missed these shows. And hopefully she'll recover and be back soon. But obviously we'll get into it. We did get a really entertaining Lady C versus Hina match. A Queen's Quest Civil War match, if you will, Rob.
I thought both women did extremely well, especially as, that wasn't on the card until very, very late on. I don't think it was announced that Miyu Amasaki was pulled from the show on the 3rd until, I think it was 40 minutes before the show started. So they did extremely well to put something together. I was quite interested, actually, to see Lady C walk away with the victory, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments. Let's talk about Julia, because I don't think enough has been said about Julia at the moment. It's looking increasingly likely that Julia will be leaving at the end of her contract. Nothing official has been announced, but we were surprised with some English commentary on Stardom Gate with Stu Fulton and Momo Kogo, who we are going to wax lyrical about later, because I thought Momo Kogo in particular did a tremendous job to do commentary in her second language and be as good and as analytical as she was, and to offer the insight she did. I thought she was absolutely tremendous. Stu Fulton did a brilliant job, as he always does, holding it all together. But they mentioned during the semi-main event that Julia may or may not be going to a big American corporation. I believe the exact verbiage of it was, if she's not going, you don't mention it. It's as simple as that, which sort of gives me the idea that, right, she is going. Obviously, hopefully you aren't listening to this and haven't watched the shows. Otherwise, obviously, this show contains spoilers. We have new Artist of Stardom champions, which, of course, Julia was 1/3 of them. So she's now dropped one of those titles. I think if we see her drop the New Japan Strong title, whether it be against Trish Adora on the 13th of January, which I don't think it will be, I'll be very interested to see who the challenger after Trish Adora, who that is and when that is. Because if she drops the belt there, I would say it is almost 100% that Julia will be in the WWE before the end of the year, Matt.
Yeah, from what I understand, I could be wrong. I'm wrong quite often. It's part of my charm. I believe a lot of these Bushi Road contracts end at the end of March. I know the New Japan ones are usually right around Wrestle Kingdom. Obviously, we saw a handful of years ago with AJ Styles, Nakamura, the Good Brothers. They left right after Wrestle Kingdom, but I believe the Stardom contracts are up the end of March. So I believe Julia did not re-sign a contract yet because I think theirs are, again, I could be wrong. So don't quote me on this. Don't chop it up. Say Matt Turner says the Stardom contracts are good for 2 to 3 years. I think they're good for 2 to 3 years. Again, I could be wrong. Julia, I know her contract is up in March and wanted to stay probably up until right around the start of the 5-star, and then they were going to renegotiate then. So I think it was kind of just a handshake agreement, but it really seems that more and more, especially the fact of the big angle that happened after the co-main event of the show that happened this morning. And then obviously with them dropping the belts, again, spoilers for a show we're going to get into, and the fact that it was mentioned on English commentary. And obviously this has been in the works since November. If you do remember, there were certain sites that were saying that Julia is going to be in the Performance Center in 3 or 4 days. It's like, no, that's not fine. And we all got to laugh. Again, I know we talked about this last week, but I'm a big fan of repetition jokes. Literally, we were on a podcast with Karen Peterson like a week later, and we were talking about Julia, and Karen lives in the Orlando area where the Performance Center is. She's like, yeah, I didn't see her at the 7-Eleven or whatever, and I thought that was a great joke. Karen's just an absolute gem. But yeah, it really seems like she's going again when we don't know. The ideal thing for me would be just to have her farewell match at All-Star Grand Queendom, the Yokohama Buntai. That'd be a big deal, especially the fact of who's it going to be against. Would it be against a returning Tam? We'll get into it a little bit later. They really tease some stuff with her and Shuri having a final match. I think that when she goes, she needs to put over Micah. I think that, especially with Micah calling her out after Micah won the World of Stardom Championship against Suzu Suzuki on Dream Queendom. Would it be against Utami? We finally get that dream match that we've been waiting for 3 years now, right? Or it could be a Saya Kamatani. There's a million matches you can do for Julia's farewell match. But again, from what I understand, and again, I'm going to reiterate, I could be wrong. I'm wrong often, is that her contract is up in March, and she may just have a verbal agreement with Rossi because her and Rossi obviously have a great, great relationship together. And Rossi may want her just to kind of have an old school handshake deal, to stick around for a few months to kind of help Stardom sell some tickets. And maybe if that's Julia's farewell at All-Star Grand Queendom, we shall see. But yeah, more and more looks like that maybe at the end of the summer, beginning of fall, we will see Julia probably in a WWE ring sometime soon. So all the more power to her. God bless her. Obviously, we want her to stay in Stardom. But at the same time, she's obviously going to make a lot more money over into the WWE. And we've seen these English promos over the past 2 or 3 weeks have gotten really, really good with her. She connects with the American audience. Again, I saw her in the ECW arena in Philadelphia. Philadelphia fans are some of the most hardcore fans, especially when it comes to wrestling. And just on her entrance alone, got probably the pop of the night. That really goes to show that I think that she's ready-made for WWE TV. I don't want to, if she goes to NXT, I hope it's not just too long. I hope it's just maybe just to work a couple programs with some of the girls and then put her up to the main roster, because Julia is a talent from curtain to curtain, not somebody that you put in Full Sail University. No offense to the fine folks at Full Sail University, because NXT is doing tremendous things. Oh, and by the way, we are going to NXT as well. We got our tickets for that. So if you're going to NXT on that Saturday, let us know. We'll be tailgating all day that day, folks.
Oh, yeah, I will be absolutely sozzled. Yeah, I mean, all signs are, unfortunately from a Stardom perspective, are pointing to Julia leaving. And it seems to have come about very, very quickly from mere rumor to, for me at least, it seems a near certainty. The fact that Stu Fulton brought it up on English commentary, as I said before, if it's a rumor, if it's not happening, you don't acknowledge it. But it does seem that is the case. We talked about it on our live stream, which, by the way, thank you to everyone that's reached out and thanked us for the live stream. It went really well. I thought it was a really good show. Really enjoyed it, basically. So thank you to everyone that joined us. But yeah, it feels very much like Julia's departure is imminent. And yeah, I wonder where they're going with the New Japan Strong Championship, because already she's dropped the artist belt. There's the big faction breakup, which, we keep alluding to, but we'll talk about in a minute. So it feels like the New Japan Strong is the sort of final thing now before Julia leaves, which again is a shame, but I'm excited to see what she does next in her career. Let's talk then about these shows. We've had 2 shows in the space of 2 days, 2 pay-per-views, and before we get into specifics, there's 2 things I wanted to note. The first is that after quite a lot of negativity surrounding the company, surrounding booking and all that sort of jazz, I think between Dream Queendom and these 2 shows, Stardom has that spring in its step back. I've seen nothing but positivity about these 2 shows, especially the one from today, the Stardom Gate show, especially the main event between Mayu and Syuri, which, again, we're going to talk about in a moment, but is unsurprisingly an absolute barn burner. But it seems that there is a positivity oozing out of Stardom at the moment, Matt. I don't know if you've picked up on that.
Yeah, I actually mean you were texting on a handful of hours after this the show on the 3rd, just about how great the show was, how everybody got over, and the fact that I think this is, and obviously we'll get into it, where we think we're going for the big pay-per-view on the 4th of February, the Supreme Fight Anniversary show. And if half of our predictions are true, this is going to be an early card of the year, show of the year. So all was pretty good. It looked like that the Yokohama Budokan was pretty full. I believe that, the show from earlier today in Tokyo Dome City Hall, I never seen it. Seen the venue before. It very much reminded me of the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. That looked jam-packed full. There's been nothing but high praise on these 2 shows, and especially again with that main event, because boy howdy, I think you text me like as soon as you woke up. I'm like, did you watch this match yet? I was like, no. And I was like, I think I have to watch it again because I'm running on an hour of sleep. I think it might have broke the Stardom scale, which we'll get into. But Stardom, for kind of being up and down, again, they had some great cards in 2022, and obviously we talked about it before. But for them to end the year on Dream Queendom, and then their first 2 shows, we get the rookie tournament and the Triangle Derby, which was a home run. And then we get a really, really solid show with a great co-main event and a must-see main event from earlier today with 2 really jam-packed crowds where the attendances were really well. And then I think there's a Corkin show this Saturday. And then basically that's going to lead all roads into that first week of February at that pay-per-view. It really seems like Stardom is back on stride, and it kind of makes you wonder when they had to get rid of some of the, what's the good word for it? I'm trying to be positive. When they got rid of maybe some of the non-great booking people at Stardom, and they kind of let Rossi be Rossi and let him book his company the way he needs to book it. Stardom fires on all cylinders. They really, really do. You're looking at Rossi Ogawa, the Hat Man, as we call him, the Monopoly Man, as my wife calls him. Say what you want to about him, but here's a guy that has been booking wrestling longer than I've been alive. So he knows what he's doing, folks. And again, clearly, if he has the reins back, which it really looks like that he does, and he can book the promotion the way he wants to with the most loaded roster in the world. And I know there's only 4 rookies here. I'm a big fan of Aya Sakura when she comes back, and 5 really great rookies. I think 2024 is going to be a huge, huge year for the company that we love called Stardom.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, something that I wanted to pick up, the graphics packages. Now, this is something I actually saw at Dream Queendom. And I only actually picked up from Megan Bain's entrance. But I don't know if you've noticed that on the Trons, we're getting individualized graphics for all of the wrestlers. So there was a big red dragon for Suzu Suzuki. The Mace Sarah one is really cool. There's obviously the big sort of Pegasus for Megan Bain, and then Sayori Anu's white dragon as she's coming down Jesus, we'll talk about that in a moment. Talk about championship aura. But I don't know if you've noticed them, Matt, but they look really cool.
I noticed it. I know you're going to say, and then of course everybody listening to this podcast will say, "Of course you did, Matt." I noticed it first during when Tam came back at Dream Queendom. She had a really cool. She had a really cool one in Ryogoku. That was really good. I know you messaged me the other day about them, and I've kind of been paying attention to it. But you're telling me Suzu Suzuki had a red dragon?
She did, yes, with sort of Suzu scratched across the middle.
Well, Suzu Suzuki will now be a part of, confirmed. Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly has Suzu Suzuki as their understudy. So it's confirmed, my friend. Once you take it, you got to go with it because that's the way wrestling Twitter works. But yeah, that's really cool. What it does, Rob, it makes the individual stand out because they have their own graphic. And Stardom does a great job with these productions, especially on these big pay-per-views. I mean, we saw the light-up LED WrestleMania-style entranceway at All-Star Grand Queendom in the Yokohama Budokan, and they do a great job. When they do the 5-star entrances, like the announcements, or not the announcements, but like the post, the opening ceremonies, they do their production crew when they get to these bigger shows is really top notch. And this is just something that is adding to it because, again, it's an individual thing for a Mei Seira, for a Susan Suzuki, for a Tam, for a Natsupoi, for a Soriano. It just really makes that wrestler feel that much more important, which in turn makes the match that much important. It's just a little thing that really helps out a lot in the long run. So kudos to the Stardom production team for making the product even better.
And that's the same for the show logos as well, because especially the Stardom Gate one, I thought looked really, really cool. I noticed that a while ago, Saya Kamatani had a new one, sort of an updated Phoenix, and everyone seems to be going down that sort of that route. But what I really liked was when Azumi Saya and Utami came out for their first round Triangle Derby match on the 3rd, they'd got a joint one. So you've got the roses of Utami, you've got the phoenixes of Saya Kamatani, and then I can't remember what they had for Izumi, but that was all put together in like this big sort of computerized mural and looked really, really, really cool. So yeah, kudos to whoever is doing the design production at Stardom because it looks pretty damn cool. So well done. We move to the New Year's Star Show. So this was the show from the 3rd of January, doubling up as the 2024 Triangle Derby Tournament. It was from Yokohama Budokan in Kanagawa in front of 960 people. Probably a number that Stardom are a little bit disappointed with. I believe it's the second lowest Yokohama Budokan attendance that they've drawn, the lowest being the 700 and some odd that they drew for New Blood Premium. But we'll forego that when you consider the attendance from today's show, which we'll talk about in a moment. I assume that the 960 is a little to do with the so little time, only so many shows you can go to over Wrestle Kingdom week. And I think a lot of it as well is going to be based around, well, there's no title matches on this card again. But in spite of that, I thought, first of all, running the Triangle Derby over one night was significantly better than doing a round robin. It doesn't need to be a round robin. Plus, again, you look at the teams that you got put together, the only real change that I would have made was having Hazuki in the Stars team. But as Mayu had, a rigorous match today, obviously they weren't going to go very far. But overall, I think a success on that front. We had a very, very good Rookie of Stardom tournament with a surprise winner, which, we've seen the rocket strapped to this person. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But overall, Matt, I thought this show, aside from the attendance, can be considered a success.
I'll be honest with you, brother. I didn't know what the attendance was until you announced it. I just talked about 5 minutes ago that both these crowds looked like they were jam-packed. It looked like there was well over 1,200 people. I mean, again, what do I know? But yeah, both these shows were really good. I think the reason why, and we'll get into it, the reason why Hazuki was in that 8-person tag, which we kind of, when we're looking at the card, we're like, that's kind of just a throwaway match just to have the wrestlers get a little bit of rest before the finals match. But then it set up potentially a lot of really good matches coming up probably in the next few weeks or so. So I think that's why they had Azuki in that 8-person tag, is to set up what we think is going to be her big match, probably a semi-main event match coming up at Supreme Fight. The rookie tournament, I mean, I knew it was going to be good because we've seen these rookies before, especially Hanako has been with the company about 6 or 7 months. And Yuzuki has been phenomenal in the 2 or 3 months that she's been there. And just the handful of matches that Rana's had and Sayaka's had has been excellent. And Sayaka is just someone that's just like, if you were going to rank them, again, it may not be fair because they're rookies. She'd kind of be last of the 4. But it really seemed like she really showed out, like with her personality. It really, really does. And it's interesting to see, especially with the breakup of a certain faction that we'll get to at the end of the show, where some of these rookies are going to land and what faction. Obviously, Cosmic Angels and Club Venus, they need some members, but I don't know how many of these rookies know how to dance. But I think they can be taught. I think Mina Shirakawa is not only a great wrestler, but might be a great teacher. But yeah, this opener I thought was great. I mean, they opened up with a banger with Yuzuki and Rana Yagami. I mean, these two really laid into each other, didn't they, brother?
Absolutely. Let's dive straight into it. Rookie of Stardom first round tournament. Yuzuki defeated Rana Yagami with the rolling arrow in 6 minutes and 52 seconds. We knew they were going to be hot on Yuzuki. She actually comes out of this weekend with the highest singles win rate, which obviously we've only done 2 shows, but that is quite entertaining. The fact that she is 3 for 3 in terms of pinfalls over the week. Really, really quite impressive. But they are clearly strapping the rocket to Yuzuki. They clearly see something in her, and I'm not surprised, because from that very first match she had with Momo Watanabe, both of us were talking about how she had, the intangibles. You could tell that she just got pro wrestling. Yes, she's not the finished article by any stretch of the imagination. None of the rookies are. But, there was something about her, and I said it before, I'll say it again, she wasn't just running lines. She knew her lines, and not only did she knew her lines, she was adding so much to it. Rana Yagami, I thought, was really impressive in her New Blood debut. Here, she tried something different. It was a really good back and forth. Overall, though, the correct person won. I think Rana Yagami, obviously, again, very new rookie, only debuted on Christmas Day. A little bit of seasoning, and she will be a very, very good addition to the roster as well.
Rob, you mentioned before a few times that you think Rana Yagami is tailor-made for a God's Eye. But what do you think, maybe because of her aggression and the way she throws her kicks, what do you think about maybe her going to a Wedo tie?
My only issue with, it's a decent thought, because I was thinking about this earlier. Because with a Wedo tie, you have an issue in the fact that Ruaka is eating every single pinfall. So every match that she is in at the moment as part of a Wedo tie, she is eating the pinfall. So when you want to start pushing Ruaka up the card, you need someone else in a Wedo tie to begin taking the falls. Obviously, you won't have it being Rina unless you are setting up a future challenge. Fukigen Death is Fukigen Death. She's impervious to pinfalls, so it's not going to be Fukigen Death. And obviously, you're then into your main talent in a Wedo tie in Tora Watanabe and Starlight Kid. So maybe they do need a rookie. It would certainly take a lot of the pressure off Ruaka and allow her to progress up the card, because, she's been Future of Stardom champion. She's tried for the Goddess of Stardom titles once, so maybe she needs to be pushed a little higher up the card now. Maybe it is her time alongside Rina to sort of be known as less than just the youngsters.
Yeah, good point, my friend. Good point. And it might be somebody else, too. At the end of the tournament, there was a little bit of pushing and shoving a referee as well. But as much as we joke about a Wedo Tai having 1,000 members, they haven't had anybody new join since Momo at the end of 2021.
That's a very good point. And obviously, you've got quite top heavy in a Wedo Tai. You don't seem to have anyone that sort of bridges the gap between, your youngsters, your rookies, your less experienced wrestlers, and your main event talent, unless, of course, you count Fukigen Death, and she's more of a comedy character. So, yeah, I can see Rana Yagami being in there. She's certainly, I'd argue, of the 4, she's certainly the most aggressive. I would have said Hanako to Donna Del Mondo, but obviously for reasons we'll get into, that's not going to happen. So maybe it could be Hanako. It definitely won't be Sayaka Kurora. She seems very Cosmic Angels / Club Venus. And Yuzuki, potentially she doesn't really scream bad guy. And if they are pushing her the way they're pushing her, maybe she will go into a more face sort of space. Maybe she'll go into Stars or into a Queen's Quest. But yeah, potentially Rani Agami, if they are going to go sort of lean into that aggression that she shows, by all means, stick her in a weather tie. My only thought for God's Eye is because of a submission-based game and the fact that she, sort of singled out Sturi as a big inspiration for her, which of course led to their match at New Blood 11. Were you surprised that Yuzuki, obviously we'll get into it a little bit more when we get to the match, but were you surprised that Yuzuki actually came out with the victory of the entire tournament?
That was not good, sir, because if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, we did a little bit of a preview and picks, and I know you had Hanako winning. I actually picked Yuzuki to win the whole thing, so I actually got one right. Now, of course, we'll get into the Triangle Derby, where not only me and you picked Queen's Quest to win, but my lovely bride, Amber, did as well, and we all went down in glorious flames in that one, brother.
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. It's got to happen, hasn't it? It's got to happen. You've got to get one prediction wrong. As soon as I remembered who they'd got in the first round, because I was like, oh, it's Utami, Saya, and Azumi. It's like, Queen's Quest A team. It's like the big guns. And then I remembered that they were against Mecca Bane, Suzu Suzuki, and Mei Seira. I was like, oh, no one's eating the pinfall out of that team. But never mind, because it was a great match. So ultimately, we were the winners. We move on to the second rookie of Stardom first round match, which saw Hanako get rid of Sayaka Kurora in 5 minutes and 13 seconds with the Brainbuster. Shorter match, but I actually this is my favorite performance of the few that we've seen from Kurora, simply because she came into this match with a very clear game plan. She knew she wasn't going to out-muscle Hanako. Hanako is considerably bigger and considerably better built than Sayaka is. But she came in, she tried to grind her down, consistently tried to grind her down, and it just ultimately was her inexperience which let her down. And I thought that was a really cool story to tell in those 5 minutes, Matt.
Yeah, it was really well. And she seems more confident, more sure of herself. As she was walking down the aisle, she was really playing to the crowd a little bit more, which, yeah, it does seem like she'll probably go to one of the super babyface teams, whether it's Club Venus, whether it is Cosmic Angels, or whether it could be Stars as well. You don't know. I think those are kind of the three to go to. But she's only had a handful of matches, and she's improving with each and every outing. And something I want to point out, and I kind of wrote this down in my notes, and this is kind of the perfect place to put it in before I forget. It's one thing when these rookies have a good tag match, right? Because you can kind of smoke and mirror the weaknesses and strengths with 2 or 3 other people in a tag match. It's another thing if they're in there with a Shuri, a Julia, a Han, and so on and so forth, and they can kind of carry things. But these are 3 matches where you have 3 rookies. All 3 of these matches I thought were really, really good, where it's like, who's leading who? Like, I'm sure, like, Hazuki, Mayu, whoever the agents are, whatever they have agents, is kind of telling what to do, what not to do. They may have been kind of practicing the matches at the Stardom Dojo, but still, like, these three matches are great. And considering the fact that you have 4 rookies, all rookies in these matches, and they were this good, just goes to show that these girls might be a year and a half away of leading like a good 10, 12-minute singles match. Again, against maybe a Hana, against Arena, against a Ruaka, against somebody that kind of lower up tier on the card, where they may just be like, okay, here's your match. We're going to have the newer person lead it for 10 to 12 minutes, sink or swim. And I have a feeling that all 4 of these ladies, when given the opportunity in about a year from now, are going to swim and swim very well.
Well, this was why I was so impressed with Miyu Amasaki in that 6 woman at the Open Dream Queendom a couple of days ago, because she was in there with all of the rookies. She was the most experienced in there, and I thought she held the match together really, really well. There was no super experienced wrestler in there to sort of glue everything together, to be sort of that yardstick for the match. And you're absolutely right. All of these matches had the potential to fall apart. You have got a rookie versus a rookie. if they're not ready for it, then, things can go wrong. But I thought all 4 women did exceptionally well. As I've already said, I thought Karura had her best showing yet. Hanako, clearly the more experienced wrestler, I thought did very, very well to sort of lead the match. And again, Yuzuki, who only debuted at the end of last year, I thought has done a tremendous amount really, really, really well, and clearly is being trusted by the company as well. So excellent stuff from her. We move on then to a singles match. Now, obviously, with Miyu Amasaki's injury, initially this was going to be one of the teams from the Triangle Derby, Lady C, Hina, and Miyu Amasaki were going to be taking on the Bari Bari Bombers in the first round. Now, as a result of Miyu Amasaki's illness, the Bari Bari Bombers got a bye through to the semi-finals, and then due to the result of the next match, ended up with a bye to the final. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So this left Lady C and Hina with a singles match, with Lady C coming out with the victory, defeating Hina in 7 minutes and 39 seconds with the Ready, I'm Ready, which is sort of her variation of the Blue Thunderbomb. Again, you really enjoyed this match, Matt, and I must admit, it was quite ground-based to start off with, which I quite liked. But Hina, every time I see her, Hina impresses me. And I think I say this every time we talk in detail about Hina. She sort of in the family, and when, maybe 18 months ago, she was the sister that everyone sort of slept on, because you'd got Hanan, who was clearly earmarked for special things, a very clear babyface icon. And then you'd got Rena, who'd got the attitude and had got the charisma. So everyone focused on those two and sort of ignored Hina. And now, as they're getting older, yes, Rena is still the charismatic one, Hanan is still the future ace one, but Hina has quietly been going about her work and getting slowly better, developing her own niche. And I think she's one that when she came out, you could feel there was more confidence in her than she's carried in the past, Matt.
Yeah, I believe it was at last year's Cinderella tournament, excuse me. She had her new gear. And as you said, my friend, she poke evolved up. So I thought, so it's like, okay, like obviously they're clearly putting something into Hina if they're getting her new gear and they're investing this time and money into it, which is great, which I love to see. And then you constantly see it with the progression of having more reps in. And obviously we know that Rena, Hana, and Hina, they have a background in judo. We see the way they use the judo throws and submissions and some of the rolls to get into some of their offense. But we've seen Hina now, maybe over the past 6 to 8 weeks, she uses the judo throw to set up arm bars, to get an arm bar submission. And it really seems like that's kind of the offense that she's going with. Now, she can always adapt and evolve and use it to set something else up. But I really, really like that, because now it's like she kind of has a game plan going into her matches of what she wants to do. She wants to break down the opponent's arm, and she's using one of her best offensive weapons or even a defensive weapon. I mean, a lot of times these wrestlers, or even in a judo tournament, they use that hip throw, that judo throw as a defensive move to build into an offensive move. And we've seen Hina do it, in matches prior. And we've seen her in a singles match here with Lady C, where again, there's no smoke and mirrors. It's just her and her other opponent. There's no Utami or Azumi or Sae to kind of have the flash to kind of come in with some of the stuff they do, and then set Hina up for her moveset that we've seen them do with Miyu Amasaki as well, because Queen's Quest is they're just the best. But it's really, really good stuff here. The way she uses the judo throw to set up the armbar and then transition to different variations of the armbar, I thought was great here. Lady C is ever improving. I mean, boy, howdy, her and Ami Sori, when they challenged Wing Gory for the New Blood Championship back on Christmas Day, that was a really big coming out party for Lady C, who might have been the MVP on the whole entire show. And now it's just, she's getting, she's always been improving over the last year and a half. But I think that in 2024, we're going to see a vast improvement on Lady C, very much like we saw with Mina Shirakawa in 2022 and Yuna Mizumori in 2023. I would not be shocked that this time next year, we're not talking that Lady C is the most improved wrestler in all of Stardom, or maybe in all of wrestling. But really good showing here. they did the best they could with the bad situation. Again, Miyu Amasaki probably came down with some sort of illness. I'm not sure if it was COVID or the flu, or you can't be too careful now. It's not 15 years ago where you just wrestled through an injury or you'll just wrestle through a sickness and that's that. Especially with, where we live in a post-COVID world, you don't want to take chances of getting anybody else in the building sick, whether it's the fans, the staff, or any of the wrestlers. So Stardom did the right thing by sending Miyu home. And then it was just like, well, we have Lady C and Hina here. What do we do? Let's just give them a singles match, give them the ring time. And they did. And relatively, it was a really good match. And really excited to see what these two ladies are going to do in the future.
Where do you see Lady C? I mean, you've got three obvious main eventers. Definitely in Utami and Saya. Azumi is getting there. So, you've sort of got, and this is where the SWA belt, sort of that mid-card belt, was a great thing to have, even if its rule set completely hamstrung it. You'd got something that Lady C's and, people like Miyu Amasaki's or people like Ruaka, who we've just talked about. There's no real bridge from the Future of Stardom Championship through to the white belt. Now, Lady C could have the greatest 2024 of all time. I still don't think she'd be ready for a white belt shot. Not realistically. Anyway, so do you see her maybe going for the tag belts, the Goddess of Stardom belt? Do you see her, because I think, did she debut in 2020? Or did she debut in 2021? I think it was, or did she debut in 2022? I can't remember. Can't remember off the top of my head. Basically, has she got... Do you think that the next step is a Future of Stardom champion? Obviously, there's only so many wrestlers that can become Future of Stardom champion before the time runs out. Where do you think she lies in that case?
I think what you do with the rap is you build up this trio team of her, Hina, and Miyu Amasaki, and you give them a shot maybe sometime in late spring, early summer at the Artists of Stardom Championship, especially if it's the God's Eye trio that has the belts. I think that'd be a really fun, entertaining match if you put it on a cork or you put it third or fourth from the top on a pay-per-view. I think if you spend this time building them, because it's going to be a great match, that obviously they're not going to be pinning Ami, Mirai, or Shuri. But at the same time, that Shuri, Mirai, and Ami, they're going to bring it, but they're going to make sure that this younger trio is going to get their stuff in as well. Obviously, Lady C with those furious running boots and the big choke slam and the chops that she does is excellent. Obviously, Miyu Amasaki is very, very explosive, and Hina can do a little bit of everything. I think that's where you go. I think that you build this team up over the course of the next few months and then give them a shot, again, on a bigger show, whether it's a pay-per-view or a cork, and at the Artists of Stardom Champions. And again, give Shuri, former Red Belt champion, Mirai, former two-time Cinderella winner, and as well as the former white belt champion, and Ami Sourei, former future champion. Give them a run for their money. Obviously have the God's Eye team retain, and then I'm sure get on the microphone and really put them over. Again, as I always say, it's not just who goes over, it's who gets over. And I think if you build these three up a little bit and have them give them, maybe a 17, 18-minute match with those three, main eventers, I think it would be a really good shot in the arm for all three of their careers.
Yeah, I've just had a look. Lady C debuted in 2020, and I believe the rules of the Future of Stardom Championship now prohibit her from actually challenging. So, because you've got to be under, I believe, is it under the age of 20 or having less than 2 years wrestling experience. So that does seem to, unfortunately, end Lady C's ambitions of getting the Future of Stardom Championship. But that, like you said, might be a blessing in disguise. The artist
or be an alien clown, buddy. I think that's the other. I think there's an asterisk in there.
Or be an alien clown. Absolutely, absolutely. She could claim that. But yes, let us move on then. So we moved on to the first of our Triangle Derby matches, and that's all the trio, the Queen's Quest trio of Utami Hayashida. Oh my God, let me try that again. I'm so tired. The Queen's Quest trio of Utami Hayashishita, Saya Kamatani, and Azumi, and the team of Megan Bain, Suzu Suzuki, and Mei Seira go to a time limit draw, 15 minutes, and therefore both teams were eliminated. Hatman lasted 4 matches into the new year before booking a time limit draw mat. It's one that makes sense. I don't particularly mind this one. It was a great match, as we knew it would be. I thought Megan Bayne just every time she came into the ring, she seems to improve. She's got great chemistry with all three members of Queen's Quest, you know, whether it's sort of trying to negate the pace of Azumi, the athleticism of Saya, or going suplex for suplex with Utami. It just felt big match, which I really, really enjoyed. Overall, this was, if not my match of the night, certainly second match of the night. Again, the Queen's Quest 18 blow it out of the water, but that should not take away from the work that Megan Bayne, Suzu Suzuki, and Mei Seira did, because especially that sequence between Mei Seira and Azumi, it's breathtaking how good they are, isn't it?
Yeah, this was my second favorite match of the whole weekend as far as the Stardom shows go. Okada and Danielson was probably my second favorite match of the whole weekend as far as wrestling goes. That's neither here nor there, sir. Yeah, usually, like most of us, I thought this was hilarious. So Megan Bayne's going to start the match. So you're like, okay, they're going to probably have Tommy start the match. They're going to have like a power. You know, they'll throw some forearms, they'll do some shoulder tackles, or maybe Saya Kamatani will come in there with explosiveness. But poor Azumi, all 95 pounds of her, 5'1", is like, nope, I'm going to start this match. I'm like, oh, Azumi's going to use her quickness to like kind of maybe blow up Megan Bayne. No, she just goes over and starts forearming Megan Bayne. And again, it's Azumi's Queen Quest, folks. I will always give them the pass because they're my favorite faction all in wrestling. And I was like, you go, Azumi. You go, Azumi. And then once Megan Bayne gets a hold of Azumi, the high-speed bomb girl just takes an absolute beating. But then there's some really good stuff here. And obviously what it does is it sets up that Megan is getting over on Azumi with Aphrodite, with Tommy inside Kamatani being the best tag team in the world. They quickly come in and use some double teams to get over on Megan Bayne, and then we see some really good crazy star double team stuff with Aphrodite, which obviously goes into the post-match interview, which we'll get into. Really good double teams, really good single stuff. And normally when we see these multi-person tag matches, especially on pay-per-views, when you have your really good high-speed wrestlers, your Kagamas, your Mei Seiras, your Azumis, your Starlight Kids, your Natsupois, usually they'll start the match out with a really fast pace. Like that's how you're kind of engaging the crowd, is you have these two wrestlers that are great at high speed wrestling and kind of set the tone where they don't do that here. So you're having your double teams, you're having everybody get one or two big moves in, building towards the middle of the match. And then Azumi and Mei Seira come in like, okay, now we're going to give the high speed. I'm like, oh, that's something different. That's something different that we rarely see with the two high-speed wrestlers. And their exchange was only about 90 seconds, but that's all it needed to be. I thought that was really, really good stuff. I thought that the way that it was built, put in the match different, was something different from we've seen before. I loved how Queen's Quest, in order to take down Megan Bayne, they would use a lot of the triple team work because they work so well together. Again, Mei and Suzu Suzuki's terrific. Megan Bayne had no issues whatsoever picking people up and throwing them over the top rope, as per usual, which I thought was great. And then we got some great Utami and Megan Bayne stuff. And then we had a really, really good final few minutes where I didn't know where it was going to go. You know, as the countdown was going and as this pace of match was going, as we were maybe about 12 or 13 minutes in, I figured, okay, this is going to a time limit draw because I can't see either of these two teams wrestling this type of match of the night style one or two more times. Usually, if you're only going to be out there for one match in this tournament, you give everything you can in that one match, which is just goes to show these six ladies want to make sure they left everything in the ring in this match. But I'm also thinking there's no way they're going to give the Artist champions two buys into the finals. Like the first time you see them is going to be the main event. So there's no way they can do that. But at the same time, you're kind of backed into a corner because the Miyu thing was literally last second. Wasn't supposed to happen. Are you going to rebook everything last second because of that? So I completely understand. I loved it how Azumi, they kind of worked the finish towards her going for the C4 bomb, you know, which is that cross-leg German suplex that she does that I would love to see her win more matches with. Obviously, she likes using the armbar and 54,000 variations of the double stomp. But I love her to see it use that C4 bomb as the finish. She tries to get it on Mei. She can't get it. She eventually gets it with some help from Utami and Saya Kamatani. Again, just showing the chemistry of Queen's Quest. Gets it for a 2 count when Suzu Suzuki makes the save. And then you do see Megan Bayne basically take out both members of Aphrodite. That leads to the Crazy Star teamwork, the lung blower German suplex into the Rolling Star finish from Mei Seira. Eventually that gets broken up by Aphrodite. And then we just see Mei Seira and Azumi basically have a sprint finish towards the end as the bell rings. Again, phenomenal match. Out of all the Triangle Derby matches that have happened up till this point in this year, this is my favorite one, buddy.
Absolutely. Faces stiff competition.
Yeah.
No, I
four
like
and a quarter stars for me, brother.
I think I gave it 3 3/4. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I love the fact that they played off the fact that Utami, Saya, and Azumi are a better team or a more cohesive team than Megan, Suzu, and Mei Seira. And I thought that it really did help put over Megan Bain the fact that they had to use those triple teams and that speed to try and wear her down. It still sort of built her as this inconquerable monster, which, you know, she needs, having lost all 3 of her big singles matches. You know, she needs to do that. After the match, Suzu, Suzuki, and Mei Seira, who are, of course, Crazy Star, they challenged Aphrodite for the Goddess of Stardom Championships. Oh my God, Matt, yes, please. Plug it into my veins.
Absolutely, buddy. Yeah, when Suzu grabbed the mic first, again, I don't speak Japanese, other than Arigato and Larry and Brainbuster. I thought, again, because in the back of my head, I'm like, there's no way they're giving 2 buys to Mafia Bella. I thought Suzu was going to, not Mafia Bella, Berry Berry Bomber, same thing, Mafia Bella +1 and the hat. I thought she's like, hey, let's restart this match. Let's give it 5 minutes. That's where I thought we were going. And then she kept pointing at the belts, and I was like, as much as I want 5 more minutes to see Queen's Quest win this tournament, which, in my opinion, even though they wrestled once, they won on points, just like they did last year. Another story for another day. But we are going to get a phenomenal Goddess of Stardom championship match. I'm assuming, and again, we'll get into this later, that this is going to take place on the Supreme Fight show. And boy, howdy, what a match that's going to be. And whatever the Wonder of Stardom championship match is going to be on that show, which we have an idea what it's going to be. Whatever the World of Stardom championship match is going to be, which we don't know what's going to be just yet, they are going to have a tough match to follow, because they usually put the Goddess match on and they'll go white belt, sub main, and red belt main event. Because if that is one of your championship matches, out of assuming there's going to be at least 3, good luck following that. Good luck to Soriano and whoever her opponent is. Again, it's who we think it is. It's going to be a barn burner. And good luck to the new champion, Micah, who we love, and whoever she's wrestling, because this Aphrodite versus Crazy Star match is all the makings to be one of the best tag matches of the year early on, because this is going to be tremendous. And I mentioned it, we did a live stream last week, partner. You know, if you're looking at a positive, this from the Suzu Suzuki fans, her not winning the belt, is her and Mei Seira can challenge Aphrodite for the tag belts. And you know it's going to be an absolute Insta classic. And folks, ask and you shall receive. And I think as soon as the match was not made official, but as soon as the promo was done, I tweeted at the Stardom account and I said, hey, you know, I don't know if you guys know, but Christmas was about 10 days ago, but thank you.
Yeah, they did a good job with that over this show. And yeah, completely agree. And if that's what they are setting up for the 4th, we know we are getting a red belt match. We know we are getting a white belt match. So that's 3 championship matches and 3 high caliber championship matches to stack the top of that card. Yes, please. Yes, please. There's already talk of there being an Nanae Takahashi versus Mina Shirakawa singles match being on that card as well, which I would love. I think that's a really, really good idea, especially, and that does come with a caveat, if Mina Shirakawa gets her win back. Looking at you, Nanae. Anyway, we move on to our second first round match, which saw the Uedatai team of Tora, Starlight Kid, and Momo Watanabe defeat the Stars team of Mayu Iwatani, Hanan, and Saya Iida. And of course, it's Saya Iida eating that damn pinfall. Momo Watanabe pinning Saya with the hidden Otoshi driver in 9 minutes and 41 seconds. And Machi was wearing new gear as well on new gear day, no less. Momo Watanabe pins Saya Iida. Has she no shame?
It's like, here's what we're going to do. We both members of Wingori had new gear. Obviously, we saw them debut the jackets. They didn't have the swords this time. So maybe they thought, I'll tell you what, here's what we'll do. We're going to go to a pawn shop. We're going to cash in these swords because you're not a pirate. And that makes no sense. And we're going to take the money and get you new gear, which I'm all for. But both Hana and Saya Iida, they Poke-evolved up. They both look really good. Only for Saya Iida to look really, really good in the match. Only for Momo Watanabe to beat her. However, as much as we are the unofficial Saida, Pump Up Saida podcast. The fact that she lost to Momo Watanabe is A-okay because we love Momo Watanabe. But Saida looked fantastic here. Her exchanges with Momo Watanabe, it was like chop, kick, chop, kick, chop, kick. And I will watch that all day. Obviously, Hana was great here. Mayu was terrific as well. They did a great job singling out Starlight Kid to start the match, only for Tora to come in and, pretty much make the save and then pretty much bully around Hana and Saida in the match. But everybody looked really good in the match. But this match was just built around building Saida up, only for her to eat some double teams from the XL tag team. And then Momo Watanabe ultimately putting it away. Really good story, really simple story to tell. Mayu got enough in, but not enough where, you were worried that she'd be injured for her big matchup coming up the next day, which was complete opposite for Shuri, because poor Shuri wrestled about an hour this weekend, was like the superstar of the week for sure. But really good stuff. And I actually gave this 4 stars. I liked it that much.
Yeah, it was a great match. Worked really, really well. Very, very good heel versus face dynamic. Simple match, if I'm being perfectly honest, but I think everyone played their part really well. Focus on Starlight Kid as well in small, quick patches, which I like. Hopefully she has a far better 2024 than she did 2023. And I'd like Momo Watanabe to be up there as well, especially having sort of recaptured that aggression that we love in her. Unfortunately, Sayarida was the one sacrificed here, but, ultimately we knew this team was probably not going to go all the way because of Mayu's commitments the following night. We move on to the final first-round match then that saw Aberembo, God's Eye, Syuri, Mirai, and Amisori defeat the Uedatai team of Rina, Ruaka, and Fukigen Death, with Mirai pinning Ruaka with the lariat in 6 minutes and 26, in perhaps the most predictable match of the tournament, Matt.
Yeah, true. And this had to be short for obviously reasons we'll get into. It was a very simple match to sell. However, there was one part with the O'Connor roll that had me sweating a little. That damn O'Connor roll gets you every time, which just shows the genius of Fukigen Death. The fact that she wins all the Corgan matches and the Sendai Pit matches with the O'Connor roll, that when you get to these pay-per-views, even last week she had Mayu. We talked about it last week. She had Mayu in the O'Connor roll for a split second. I'm like, are they going to pin Mayu a week before she defends the title against Shuri? And then Hazuki's boot came in. I'm like, oh, thank God for Hazuki. But they even got me here. But I understand why this match had to be as short as what it was. It told the story. Uedo Tai got in what they needed to get in. Ultimately, Mirai hits the lariat. We get 1, 2, 3, and then the announcement comes up. By the way, I gave it 3.25 stars. Again, it was simple. Nothing was offensive. Nothing was wrong. It needed to be simple for the following reasons, Rob, because as you know and as I know, as the announcement came across the loudspeaker that I guess Shuri had no idea was going to happen because she looked mortified, was that because there was a time limit draw in the first round match, that the DDM team would get a bye to the finals, that the second round match would be taking place right here, right now. And Shuri, the biggest ass kicker in the entire company, she looked mortified. But once the bell rang, she was okay.
Yeah, and to be fair, it wasn't too taxing. Aberembo, God's Eye then made it through to the final, defeating the Uedatai team of Tora, Starlight and Momo Watanabe in the only semi-final match, with Natsuko Tora being counted out in 8 minutes and 22 seconds. I'd argue this was standard fare, Matt. There was some really interesting and some really tasty exchanges. Momo and Syuri, the limited time they got together. We know that Mirai and Momo Watanabe have got really good chemistry when they get going. We saw that during their Nagoya Golden Fight match, which was one of the low-key matches of the year. We saw it in their 5-star match as well. And Amisori as well got her licks in as well in her exchanges with Natsuko Tora. But overall, nobody felt like Uedatai were going to make it through to the final. I think once it became clear that Barry Bombers were going straight through to the final, for me at least, it made sense for Aberembo, God's Eye, to give it the best sort of final match. It needed to be Syuri's team that made it through.
Yeah, true. But in the back of my head, I was thinking, well, again, is Shuri going to wrestle 3 times this night? Because again, with the litany of injuries that poor Stardom had to endure at the back end of last year, would they err on the side of caution. Now, again, obviously, you can have Mirai and Ami Sourei do the heavy lifting, which is fine. But with the err on the side of caution that we want Shuri at 100% for that Tokyo Dome City Hall match. So there was a chance in my head. I was thinking that there's a possibility we get a DDM versus Oedo Tai final. And with it being, Momo, Tora, and Kid, that's a tasty matchup if we got that against Julia, Sakurai, and Tekla. Obviously, that's not the way they went. Again, this match, the psychology of this match was very, to quote a very handsome and smart Brit that I know, Oedo Tai's got to Oedo Tai. So the match starts out with a jump. So we get double Oedo Tai being Oedo Tai within the first 90 seconds. So not only does it start with a jump that Oedo Tai does, then it starts out with a all-out brawl. By all-out brawl, I mean you have 6 different people in this match, so you have 3 different ways of having the all-out brawl. So the cameramen have done a great job of panning to this throw through a chair, this throw through a chair, this throw through a chair. But ultimately, for me, the best action on the outside was in the 3rd row, almost by the aisleway. Shuri and Momo Watanabe are just laying kicks into each other. And I'm like, I can watch this for the next 5 minutes. They're just exchanging kicks. And anytime I see that, I have flashbacks to their final of the 2021 5-Star Grand Prix and one of, if not the best matches in all of wrestling in 2021. So those two are always a great pairing. Again, partner, you mentioned Mirai and Momo Watanabe, the limited action they had. But they did a really great job shining Starlight Kid up in this match, which makes me go to believe. I know we talked about it towards the end of last year, because Starlight Kid really didn't do too much in 2023, that we all feeling that they're going to really shine her up and build her back up. And Starlight Kid's going to have a fantastic 2024. At least that's what we're hoping, because she's tremendous. Obviously, Tora was good here as well. Ami Sourei was terrific as well. But ultimately, there's this crazy brawl on the outside, which it's kind of funny, because it's like, here's Oedo Tai's bread and butter, right? This huge brawl. Ultimately, it's the brawl that winds up leading to the demise in this match, because no member of Oedo Tai can answer the 20 count as Ami Sourei does. And the best finish possible, my man, count out. Count outs rule. Count outs rule. 3 3/4 stars.
I love the fact that Oedo Tai were that shocked that someone was engaging them in their own shenanigans that they forgot to answer the 20 count. I think that's a brilliant way to finish that match. We then move on to the 3rd match from the top, which I must admit, we both said during the preview looked very much like a throwaway tag match, which it was just a case of, right, let's throw everyone who isn't in a Triangle Derby team, let's put them all in a tag match. And it actually ended up being one of the more entertaining matches on the card and set up 2 feuds heading into Supreme Fight in February. It was an 8-woman tag with the team of Nanae Takahashi, Yu Hazuki, and Saki Kashima defeating the team of Maika, Mina Shirakawa, Yuna Mizumori, and Saori Ano, with Saki Kashima getting the pin over Yuna Mizumori with the Kish Kasai in 16 minutes and 36 seconds. No love lost at all between Nanae Takahashi and Mina Shirakawa, Matt.
Actually, well, Mina wants to start with Nanae, and then Saori was just like, no, I'll start. And Hazuki's like, Hazuki's like, no, I'll start. And then calls out Saori Ano. And we mentioned last week, about an hour after Saori Ano won the Wonder of Stardom Championship, Hazuki was tweeting out that she wanted a shot. So you wonder if that was just kind of hearsay or if that's where they were going. And clearly that's where it seems like it was going, because as great as this match was, and it was, again, we thought this was going to be a throwaway match, but it really set up 2 potential big matches coming up. Again, my guess is going to be Supreme Fight. The main crux of this match for me was Hazuki and Saori Ano. Because if this is a preview, Rob, of what we're going to get when they eventually have that match for the Wonder of Stardom Championship, I'm all in. And I know, like, I sound shocked. And you're like, really, Matt? You're shocked that Hazuki and Saori Ano are going to have a fantastic match. But if this is what we go with for Saori Ano's first title defense, what a great way to start off her Wonder of Stardom run. Again, if it is even a run, if that's the match that they go with and we do our predictions, I may have to predict with my heart instead of my mind and go with Hazuki. Another story for another day. The Nanae Mina stuff was great, because Nanae was really bringing those slaps. I mean, she was overtly stiff with it with Mina, and Mina was not backing down. We've we talked about it before when we interviewed Jessie from Club Venus. She mentioned how Mina has hands, and boy, howdy does she ever. So that's a possibility too. We may get that as an undercard match, Mina versus Nanae Takahashi, which it's got to be Mina going over. It really, really does. I mean, there's no other way to go about it. Now, the one other thing, too, I was getting a little bit nervous about, Rob, because, again, we saw first part of this match, we're setting up Hazuki and Soriano. Great. We're setting up Mina and Nanai. Great. About a half an hour earlier, we set up Crazy Star, versus Aphrodite. So we're like, okay, those are 3 matches we'll probably get in the next pay-per-view. What are they doing with Micah? And then Micah was in there with you for quite a bit. And I was like, oh no. And no disrespect to you. And no disrespect to you. No disrespect to you. Because I think that'd be a great match. I really, really do. As much as I bag on you for a lack of selling, even though the past few matches I've seen her selling has gotten a lot better, and it makes sense for the psychology of the match she wants. I think it's really, really good. And when it's her and Naya as a straight up tag team, they're really terrific. They really, really are. But the only reason I was saying this is, okay, you have Micah, who really wasn't supposed to be in this role, got over organically. They did the right thing by having her as the World of Stardom champion. If you're going to set her first, if you're going to set up her first championship match, right? You're going to set up her first championship match, and it's against you, which will be great. But at the same time, it's going to be on the same card, more than likely, as Suzuki versus Soriano, and with Aphrodite versus Crazy Star. You know, it's got to be the match. That's got to be the match of the night. Is her first championship win. So we shall see, my friend. We shall see. So
yeah, there's obviously a lot to unpack. I don't think there is anyone that wants to see Hazuki win the white belt more than I do. And that's why I'm so worried about it being so soon, because are we going to have another short reign? You know, Mina Shirakawa held the belt for 30 days after Saya Kamatani held it for 480. So it's not like we haven't had a short reign recently. Are they going to do that with Soriano? I don't know. Can I take another Hazuki loss? Can I take her going 0-6 for the white belt? I don't know. I honestly don't. It's going to be a phenomenal match. If that's what they go for, and I know that, I think it was the We Are Stardom account, said that there will be 2 Rumbles or 2 Battle Royals to finalize the next competitors for the red belt and the white belt. So whether Hazuki is entered into the white one and wins, I don't know. And I also don't know if that's timetabled in for this Korakuen, because as we record, there is a Korakuen Hall show in 2 days and no card has been announced. So that's interesting. But I'm sure that's what they've announced, that there'll be 2 battle royals to work out the next two challenges. I'd love Hazuki to do it. I just don't think she will. At least not yet. If they leave it, they go with another couple of challenges and then have a Hazuki challenge, maybe it's sort of a lingering thing, a long burning thing, then maybe. But otherwise, I'm just not sure. Mina versus Nanai, I am all for if Mina wins, like I said before. If she loses again, there is no point to it. No point at all. Let's move on to the semi-main event. Rookie of Stardom tournament final. Yuzuki defeating Hanako with the rolling arrow, 7 minutes and 23 seconds. Matt Turner, Yuzuki is your Rookie of Stardom 2023. You said you weren't surprised that Yuzuki came out with that. Why did you predict Yuzuki?
Rossi really built her up more so than any rookie, probably since I'm going to say Utami. They really built her up, and she's been doing a fantastic job, my friend, as the rookie, in Stardom. So it's again, I think it's just they see big things for her. They're kind of teasing her going to Queen's Quest. Not going to Queen's Quest, but it really looked like that it is. It looked like on some of these quote unquote house shows that it is Saya Kamatani, the one that's kind of recruiting her. So that's kind of a big deal as well when you think about it. So I think that's the way they were going to. I think out of this new crop of rookies, no disrespect to Hanako, obviously she's been there the longest. I think she is clearly, in my opinion, clearly the one with the most potential. Obviously, things can change. Obviously, I think Hanako has a lot of potential, and we shall see what happens. So, it's going to be interesting to see.
It's funny that you've said that, the idea of potential rather than going with who is the best in ring at the moment. Because if I was to ask you that question, who do you think at the moment is better in ring out of Hanako and Yuzuki? My personal opinion would be, well, currently Hanako. I'd say Yuzuki has infinitely more potential, but I'd say Hanako is probably better. And do you think it's the right way to do the Rookie of Stardom tournament, to give it on potential rather than where they are now?
It could be. I mean, it could be. I think that, again, she pushed the referee at the end of the match, like was very violent. So that might be saying maybe she's going to a Wedo tie. I really like that aggression because, again, she can say, well, I'm here the longest. How come I'm not winning the tournament? How come I lost the tournament? I'm frustrated. You know, like Hanako's only been here a couple months. I've been here all year putting in the work. So you can see the frustration there. So yeah, it's something that can be really, really to look forward to, you know?
Yeah, I like that idea. Anyway, Yuzuki obviously wins the tournament. Huge potential going forward. She would also go on to get another pinfall victory in the 6-woman tag opener of the Stardom Gate 2024 show, which we'll talk about in a moment. However, we have the final match of this show, the main event, the Triangle Derby 2024 default final. The Barry Bombers making it to the final of the tournament without wrestling a match, which is quite impressive. It's also doubled, as the previous tournament did, as an Artist of Stardom Championship match. Aberembo God's Eye making it to their second successive Triangle Derby final, and this time going one better, winning the tournament and becoming the new Artist of Stardom champions, defeating the Barry Bombers, Julia Tekla and Mai Sakurai in 14 minutes exactly, with Syuri pinning Tekla with the Vermilion World. In terms of the Barry Bombers, is Artist of Stardom run, their reign ends at 221 days with 3 title defenses. This is, of course, Syuri's second reign with the belts, Mariah Namisori's first. And I saw something online, Matt, that said this is something that God's Eye should have had the moment they were a faction. You know, when you're trying to build them up as this huge faction, especially with Syuri with the red belt, do you think that this is something that Mariah Namisori should already have done as a part of God's Eye?
They could have. You remember they made it to the finals last year. So yeah, I mean it's a possibility that they could have. So, but considering the fact that where we're going with Julia again, we think she's probably going to the WWE. That I think this might be the way to go. This might be the way to go. Obviously, Mariah is no longer the Wonder Stardom champion, and the fact that I'm actually doing something very important here, Rob Goodwins, which I'll get to in just a moment. So I'm about to give you good news in about a moment. I apologize. I'm a little bit flustered because I got sent a link to the tickets for our Stardom show. So I'm trying to get that done and do the podcast all at once. Yes. So thank you to John Thurman, who sent me the link saying, hey, I got my tickets. Here's the link. They went up an hour earlier on the ECW Arena website. It's not called that, but you know what I mean. Anywho, getting to, look at me multitasking, running on just a few hours of sleep. Boy, folks, am I a machine or what? Anyway, so I think this is the right thing to do. Not only that, like, no disrespect to Tekla and Mai Sakurai, who are phenomenal wrestlers. They're not main eventers, maybe some main eventers. I think Tekla will probably get there maybe the next year or so because she's at a phenomenal end of the year. But they, hold on, and I think we are good to go. Oh, hold on one sec. I do not want the ticket insurance. You better come in, Rob Goodwin. I'm not getting the ticket insurance. Anyway, so you literally have Ami Sohrei, who looked like she's like 2 steps away from being a main eventer, coming off that not only the tournament, the 5-star Grand Prix tournament, but that tournament, the Cork and Hall tournament, which really she just had the one match. So that was really good stuff there. And then, hold on one second, friend. Sorry. And then you have Mariah, who's obviously a main eventer. She won back-to-back Cinderella tournaments. Congratulations, Rob Goodwin. We are going to the ECW Arena to see Stardom. So I apologize if I was a little scatterbrained there. I wanted to get these tickets and get it done and over with. And they were supposed to go on sale at 1 o'clock, and I found out that they went on sale at 12. Anywho, so that is done. So then we can podcast right after this, my friend. We are good. Sorry, I apologize, folks. Mariah is obviously a main eventer, coming off the back-to-back back-to-back Cinderella wins, and coming off the her phenomenal white belt run, which I thought should have been a little bit longer. Shuri, not only is she a main eventer, her and Mayu, in my opinion, are the two best women's wrestlers in the world. And if you don't believe me, folks, we will talk about it at the end of this episode about how good their match was on today's show from Tokyo Dome City Hall. The three of them obviously work very well together. Ami Sohrei and Mirai are former Goddess of Stardom tag team champions. So to make a long question, not much longer, is that I think what this does for the artist belts, it puts a little bit more shine on them by having a fantastic former white belt champion, arguably the greatest red belt champion, and a really good up-and-comer in Ami Sohrei holding the Artist of Stardom championships.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were sort of wondering if it was sort of they should have had them to cement the legacy of a new faction, but I think here it was a necessity, especially as, I've just said 221 days. They've only defended the belts 3 times through a mixture of Tekla's on and off injury, Mai Sakurai's on and off injuries, Julia's sort of commitments with the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. They don't seem to be defended enough. So hopefully with the belts on Aberembo God's Eye, we will see them defended more. It's nice to see them get the victory, especially as they came so close last year, only to lose out to Prominence. Overall, Matt, do you think the tournament works better as a single night tournament rather than a round robin? I've got a feeling I know your answer.
Yes and no. I'm going to say this. I noticed this during today's show. You had these 2 shows, and we mentioned this before months ago. You had these 2 shows back to back, which, don't get me wrong, the undercard, with the exception of the co-main event, they was good, but it was kind of throwaways. Wouldn't you have rather done, obviously Miyu Amasaki was sick, and then you did the bye with Queen's Quest and Megan Bayne and Crazy Star. What if you did the first round on this one show? Because there was 10 matches and there was 1 match missing. There was 10 matches. What if you just did the first round here and you gave the matches a little bit more time, maybe did a 20-minute time limit instead of 15 minutes, stretch it out a little, and then you did the semifinals, finals, and then the main event, you had Shuri versus Mayu. So is it better as the single elimination tournament than the round robin? Yes. But at the same time, I think they could have stretched it out 2 days, especially knowing the fact that you already had back-to-back pay-per-views and venues booked. What do you think? You think I'm in the right, wrong, or crazy, or what do you think about that?
I mean, I can see where you're coming from, definitely. I think if the success of the Stardom Gate show, I think, means that we will be seeing more Stardom shows on the 4th of January. If they are going to do back-to-back nights in future, maybe they can extend it over 2 nights, just to save New Year's Stars from being such a cluttered card. Because you're right, there were 10 matches on this card, and there was only, 2 matches that went over 15 minutes, and there's only 3 out of the 10 that went into double figures. So you could argue, and like you say, there was supposed to be another one. So potentially spreading it out over 2 nights would be better. It obviously does. It's whether they book 2 back-to-back nights again. I liked the fact that it was single elimination. I think that makes far more sense. It also keeps it apart from the Goddess of Stardom Tag League and the 5-star. Having 3 round-robin tournaments all within, 4 or 5 months of each other, it was just too much. It was too much for a spectator. It was too much for the wrestlers, as we know, and we're all, sort of having to deal with the consequences of. I think this makes far more sense. We move on then to the aforementioned 4th of January card. This took place just before Wrestle Kingdom. Ittenyon Stardom Gate 2024. I found out that Ittenyon literally means 4th of the 1st, apparently, according to the We Are to Stardom Twitter account. It took place at Tokyo Dome City Hall in front of what is being quoted as a full house, 1,536 people. Little fun note, it is listed as their 21st highest ever attendance, which isn't bad out of 700 and something shows. I'll run down the results for the card, and then obviously we'll talk about some of the matches in a little bit more detail, because especially these 2 final matches really do require a little bit of analysis. So in the opening match, 6-woman tag match, Hanako, Rani Yagami, and Yuzuki defeated the team of Lady C, Sayaka, Kurura, and Hina, with Yuzuki Suzuki pinning Kurora with the rolling arrow in 8 minutes and 11 seconds. That was initially supposed to be Lady C, Miyu Amasaki, and Hina Sayaka Kurora sort of parachuted in to replace Miyu. 6-woman tag then followed. Stars team of Hazuki, Sayurita, and Hanan defeated the Ueda Tai team of Starlight Kid, Rina, and Fukigen Death. Hanan pinning Rina with the blockbuster hold in 9 minutes and 21 seconds. We then had a tag team match. Mina Shirakawa and Mei Seira defeated the Donna Del Mondo team of Tekla and Mei Sakurai, with Mei Seira pinning Tekla with the La Magistral in 8 minutes and 42 seconds. 6-woman tag again. Cosmic Angels team of Soriano, Yuna Mizumori, and Saki defeated the Ueda Tai team of Natsuko Tora, Momo Watanabe, and Ruaka, with Soriano pinning Ruaka with the Tom's Tundra in 8 minutes and 22 seconds. Third match from the top, another 6-woman tag. The Queen's Quest A team of Utami Hayashishita, Saya Kamatani, and Azumi defeated the God's Eye team of Amisori, Mirai, and Saki Kashima, with Utami pinning Saki in 10 minutes and 45 seconds with the German suplex. In your semi-main, we had a tag team match. The team of Julia and Suzu Suzuki and Divine Kingdom of Micah and Megan Bain ended in a time limit draw. And then in the main event, our IWGP Women's Championship match, the third champion, Mayu Iwatani, reached V3, defeating Syuri with a reverse springboard Poison Rana in 19 minutes and 6 seconds. Obviously, Matt, we are going to be talking about those two top matches, the tag match and the IWGP Women's title match. You mentioned that the card below was a little bit throwaway, and I must admit, I do agree with you.
It was good.
It was good. Absolutely.
No one's gonna remember it in in a month from now.
No, no, absolutely. It's solid. But we've said over and over again, and not just because we're a Stardom podcast, but this is the most consistent roster in wrestling. There is talent all up and down this roster. You put them in a ring, it's going to be good. It's literally the bare minimum, that it is going to be good. Ultimately, from probably third match from the top downwards, there's nothing you need to go out of your way to see. The Mina Shirakawa, Mei Seira, Tekla, and Mei Sakurai match was good. And I enjoyed the Stars versus Ueda Tai match. There was bits of the Queen's Quest and God's Eye match that I enjoyed as well, but I'm not going to be breaking down the doormat to get people to rewatch anything under that semi-main.
I'll say this, though. If you're me in a giant Queen's Quest, Mark, just to have your Queen's Quest filled of Azumi, Sai, and Utami getting the win. Not only they're getting the win, but getting the win over the dastardly Saki Kashima, who has who has got the highest percentage of winning, has the biggest move in all of wrestling in the Kishikisai. But yeah, I mean, the Queen's Quest match might have been my favorite outside of the co-main event. Obviously, the co-main event was a great match, which we're going to get into in a moment. But that was probably the best one for me for the undercard. It needed to go quick. I noticed it was going really quick because, again, they wanted to be out of there by about 1:30. I think Wrestle Kingdom, the Rambo, I think was starting around 2:30. And I know you mentioned at the start of the show, you're not a fan of Rambo, but I have a feeling you're a fan of Sylvester Stallone as Rambo. Another podcast for another day. Just wanted to slip that in. Yeah, again, it was a solid undercard. Obviously, everybody worked hard. Everybody got over. You're literally, majority of those people were probably walking right over to the building to Wrestle Kingdom, as we saw Mayu was walking over in her gear to do commentary for Tanahashi and Zack Sabre Jr. So it was just good to get everybody on the card. I'm assuming there might have been 25 to 30% of the people that were in the building that may not have seen some of these Stardom wrestlers on the undercard. They may have said, "Oh, I'd like that Azumi, or that Mei Seira's really good. That Mina Shirakawa, boy, she's something." So it might have caught the eye of somebody, and they may go back and check out some of the stuff that Stardom's put on their free YouTube feed. All in all, again, a solid undercard. Nothing really stood out. Nothing really led to anything. And then, partner, we get to this co-main event. Boy, howdy. And I do have to mention, folks, and if you've listened to this podcast for quite a bit, you know this is one thing that I like to start a matchup. And there was a phenomenal lockup to start this matchup with Micah and Julia. And maybe that's where I think that the possibility they're going for Micah's first red belt challenge. Nothing was really set up here. Obviously, we have the big promo at the end, which I'll let Rob get to. Again, I believe we have a Corgan show this Saturday, and maybe that's where they build it. But they did a lot of stuff with Julia and Mike in this match. And I mentioned before, if we're doing on Supreme Fight, if we're doing Aphrodite Crazy Star, if we are doing Soriano and Hazuki, Micah needs no disrespect to you, no disrespect to you. Micah needs that opponent that she's going to look like $1 million for her first title defense. Julia more than likely is on her way out, brother. Why not let it start with Julia to really get this title reign on a bang? But speaking of bang, this match was great. I actually rated it at 4.25 stars. I thought it was terrific.
Exactly the same 4.25 stars. Aside from the angle at the after the match, which we will talk about, it was just a great match. The dynamic between Micah and Julia, you could tell something was afoot when Julia looked like she was about to burst into tears when she shook Micah's hand. And it was like, that was very weird. And then they just went at each other and it was fantastic. There was so much to enjoy about this. Not only the fact that Divine Kingdom were brilliant together and are brilliant together, have fantastic chemistry. Momo Kogo on commentary, by the way, tremendous throughout. Thought she was fantastic, offering insights in the main event about how Mayu Iwatani prepares for matches, how she usually feels, you know, what she'd be feeling like during this match. She was having the time of her life during this tag match, laughing at Micah and Megan Bayne, body slamming each other onto the pair of Suzu Suzuki and Julia. And then some of it was just hard hitting. And that's what I love in this tag match. There was no weak links in this. There was one moment that made me audibly scream. And by scream, I don't mean like high-pitched horror film scream. I mean like, oh my God, she's dead. And there's a bit where Suzu Suzuki jumps off the top turnbuckle to the outside. Megan Bayne catches her, almost falls, keeps her balance, and keeps hold of Suzu Suzuki. That is strength. Fair play, Megan. Then Julia goes for a shotgun dropkick off the apron to the floor. That bit's fine, but what I don't think she took into account is the kickback from hitting Suzu Suzuki with the dropkick to knock Megan Bayne over, because she ended up going back and smashing the back of her head on the corner of the apron. It sounded horrendous. Even Stuart Fulton on commentary was like, oh my God. It was a horrible, horrible bump. Thankfully, everyone was fine and we carried on with the match and Julia seemed to smile afterwards, so hopefully everything is okay. But all four women, fantastic chemistry. Obviously, we know that Megan Bayne and Suzu Suzuki have been teaming for a long time. Micah and Suzu have, you know, a feud that has run through quite a lot of this year, or last year, should I say. We're in 2024 now. And there was a great moment where Suzu Suzuki just turns to the crowd while she's kicking Micah in the face, going, I don't care about your champion. Brilliant. Okay, fair enough. I like that. That could be something going forward that Suzu gets that rematch. But overall, a really, really, really good match. And then, Julia broke up Donna Del Mondo. It came pretty much out of nowhere, I'll be perfectly honest. She took to the microphone and said that she had something to say. And I've actually got a translation here, and it's from Puro Subs on Twitter, who does a fantastic job in translating all of these promos. Julia, when I came to Stardom looking for a fight and aiming for the top, I was truly alone. There I met some great friends who had the same aspirations. Donna Del Mondo is my pride. Thank you to all fans who have supported us over the past 4 years. Sorry for the sudden announcement, but Donna Del Mondo is disbanded. Keep an eye on us in the future. I don't know how much the announcement took Micah Tekla and May Sakurai by surprise. All three were in the ring at this point. And they gave a very emotional goodbye to each other. They did one more of the Donna Del Mondo poses in the ring. And that was it. Donna Del Mondo are no more. One of the most dominant factions in Stardom history, possibly the most dominant faction in Stardom history, if you discount Freedom. the strongest faction for at least 2.5 of those 4 years, booked incredibly strongly. And to see them go out with something of a whimper, really, Matt, when you consider it, is quite sad, really. I mean, this for me is one of the big indicators that, Julia's leaving. The fact that she's broken up Donna Del Mondo. She hasn't put Suzu Suzuki in charge. She hasn't drafted in new members. She hasn't handed the reins over to Micah. She has broken it up. And in really quite abrupt way as well. Yeah, she's out the door, I have a feeling. And it's a shame, really. I'd have liked to have seen Micah handed the reins, especially as the top champion in Stardom. But, you could argue that there is space for another faction, which Micah could then head up. What do you think?
Rob, I'm sorry, I interrupted there for a second. My apologies. Something just came across my mind is we all kind of figured over the past week or so that Julia would be WWE bound. Again, the rumors since November, we kind of figured she'd be there. I know me and you talked on this podcast, off this podcast. I know a lot of our listeners I talked to, and kind of my opinion was she's going to put Micah over sometime at the end of the spring, and then basically just do what Io did with Momo is, right, you beat me, you're the champion, even though I know Io is the Wonder of Stardom champion. She was the champion, not the challenger, but regardless. And then basically gives the reins over to Queen's Quest to Momo Watanabe. Makes sense. You have a ready-made faction, right? Obviously, Momo does great stuff with it. And, look where we are now, the beginning of 2024. Queen's Quest is firing on all cylinders. And anytime one of their shirts comes out, they get my money. Anywho, we kind of figured that that's what Julia was going to do with Micah, was going to give the reins over to Donald Del Mundo and probably draft Suzu Suzuki and Mei Sarah, right? That's what we thought was happening. But literally, as you were just reiterating what happened earlier today, as of this recording, Micah's going to start her own faction. She's going to be the leader. She has to. She's a main eventer now. She's ready-made, organically over, regardless, right? Do you think that instead of her starting a new... I'm getting all over the place here. I apologize. Instead of her getting a new faction, I thought it would make sense. You've already had Donald Del Mundo ready-made. And if you're going to put Suzu and Mei Sarah in that faction, you're already there. Do you think the reason why she's disbanding the faction and Micah is going to create her own faction, which we don't know the name of, do you think that Julia is going... Do you think Julia has the rights to Donald Del Mundo, is what I'm trying to say? Do you think that she enters WWE with the rights to Donald Del Mundo? Do you think that's one of the things that they said, like, right, you already have this faction that's crazy over, or that's her idea, like, I'm going to come in and I'm going to feud with Damage Control, because what a great way to get over is to feud with, Bailey, with Io, with Kyrie, with Asuka. She's going to have great matches, or whatever. Do you think that maybe part of her deal was like, look, I will stay for 2 or 3 months longer on a handshake deal, but I want the rights to Donald Del Mundo? Do you think that when we see Julia leave, she takes the name DDM with her?
I don't think it's anything as nefarious as that, to be perfectly honest. I think it's more likely that it's a case of clean slate for Micah. We know that Donna Del Mondo is Julia's baby. It's sort of always been Julia's baby. And I think this is now a way of saying, right, you're now the champion, you're the top person in the company, create your own legacy. I think that is more likely to be what it is than anything nefarious like Julia owning the rights or bringing the Donna Del Mondo name over into WWE. It'd be cool. It certainly would, and I'd be very much here for a Donna Del Mondo, whoever that would entail, in WWE versus a Damage Control. But yeah, I think it's more to do with sort of giving Micah this whole clean slate and saying, right, you've been by my side for however long. And I think Micah even referenced that in the promo. I've been by your side since day one of Donna Del Mondo. She was the only one who's been there for the entire run of Donna Del Mondo alongside Julia. Maybe it's just a case of, right, I've shown you what to do. Go off and do your own thing now. I think that would have more poignancy if Julia then puts Micah over before she goes. I think that would be cool. I think that would be the right way to properly cement Micah as a big star, because aside from Shuri, nobody takes less pinfalls than Julia. So maybe that's her last match before she leaves. Put Julia over. Well, I say no one apart from Syuri, Kairi, but that's by the by.
Wait till we do our what if in a little bit here, buddy. Don't you worry about it.
Seriously, Kyrie's eating every single pinfall. But no, that's where I think it's probably going. It's just a simple case of, right, we're going to have you create your own legacy, something that can be yours. Donna Del Mondo is Julia. It's synonymous with Julia. And even though with Io, Queen's Quest was synonymous with Io, it was always very clear that Momo Watanabe was going to be the heir apparent. And eventually they've sort of separated Io from the Queen's Quest. I don't think they were going to be able to do that with Donna Del Mondo. And giving Micah, maybe they're moving away from factions. Who knows? I mean, there is like 25 factions in Stardom at the moment. Something needed to give because there isn't enough rosters to actually fill the factions. But that's just my 2 pence. You could be absolutely right. For me, however, I think it is more just a focus on Micah and what Micah wants to do next, rather than forcing Donna Del Mondo on her when she might not want it. Right.
See, brother, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Oh, God, absolutely. Absolutely. These next couple of months are going to be interesting, brother. We move on then to the main event, the IWGP Women's Championship match. Mayu Iwatani defeating Syuri, as I've already said, achieving V3. 19 minutes and 6 seconds. I'll be perfectly honest, this was my match of the year for about... Well, no, it's still my match of the year. I think I do prefer it to Okada and Danielson, but they're both 5 stars. This was as brutal as any Mayu and Syuri match has been, and then ramped up. It was as compelling as any Mayu and Syuri match that they've done prior, and then some. They managed to ratchet everything up to such an exciting degree. And this is where Momo Kogo was fantastic. She kept referencing Zombie Mayu and how Mayu can get to this place where she won't stay down. She almost detaches herself from her feelings. And it was so important in a match against someone who is so dominant like a Syuri. And Syuri brutalizes Mayu for a large part of this match. To the point where Mayu, she's bleeding from her lip. She has got this enormous welt on her throat. I don't know if it was dried blood or a footprint, but if it's a footprint, I don't know where Syuri did it, but good God, it looked painful. But
maybe both.
Maybe both. It could be both.
It's Syuri and Mayu.
Absolutely. But for all of the brutality that Syuri brought to this match, and she really, really did, Mayu brought it as well, because there was moments towards the end of this match where Mayu just stopped pulling kicks and pulling punches and just outright started kicking Syuri and punching Syuri in the head. And it was like, where has this been? Like, this is a Mayu I haven't seen since the Kairi match at Historic Crossover. Like, I haven't seen this proper icon star of Stardom Mayu Iwatani in over a year, and good God, I've missed her. This was an absolutely incredible performance. And yes, Syuri is one of the best to do it. She is a fantastic women's wrestler, and she will get her flowers for this match, and deservedly so. But for me, Mayu blew it out of the water today, both on offense and defense. Sold all of Syuri's offense like she was being hit by an AK-47, like she'd been hit by a submarine loaded with trains. She was incredible, ragdolling around the ring, being tossed like a sack of potatoes with every suplex. But then just bludgeoned Syuri with a level of savagery that we haven't seen from her in ages. We talk a little bit about, pardon my language, dickhead Mayu, where she's cocky and arrogant and can be really dismissive. But this was something completely different. Like I said, if you go back and watch the minutes leading up to this Springboard Poison Rana, where Syuri is grabbing hold of Mayu, and Mayu is properly closed fist just punching Syuri in the head. And it's like, where has this been? My God, this for me is the coming out party of the IWGP Women's Championship. Yes, absolutely. Kairi versus Mercedes Moné, great match. Really, really good match. Yes, Mayu Iwatani versus Mercedes Moné, a really good match. Not quite on the level of Kairi and Mercedes Moné, but still a good match, a dream match we never thought we'd get. This blows both out of the water, and it's not even close. This was brilliant. This is what the IWGP Women's Championship should strive to be with every single title defense. This is why this title needs to be on a Dominion, a King of Pro Wrestling, a G1 Climax final. Because this was the best match of both shows.
Yes, Rob, good one. Yes.
And
absolutely,
that's not a hot take. Like, and obviously,
ovation. If you're in your cars, put it in park. Get out of your cars and give a standing ovation.
I mean,
you are 110% right. And I will die on that hill, and I will fight you. I will hit these people that disagree with you harder than Mayu hit Sherry. That's how much I got your back on this one, buddy. This was no disrespect. I love Bryan Danielson. Me being at ringside and getting to be able to train a little bit with Bryan Danielson at Ring of Honor is one of the highlights of my life. Kazuchika Okada is arguably the greatest wrestler of all time. Their match was fantastic. Naito.
Also 5 stars, by the way.
Yes.
Also gave that 5 stars.
I have not heard a response like that in the Tokyo Dome since, like, Inoki, like with Naito. Naito Sonata was great. No disrespect to anybody on that card. Wrestle Kingdom today was absolutely fantastic.
It was a great show.
Sherry and Mayu was the best match of today. And I made a bold prediction that I think this is going to be the best match on January 4. And my friends that watch AEW and New Japan were like, you think it's going to be better than the Dream Match Part Round 2? And I'm like, have you seen the 3 matches between Sherry versus Mayu? And folks, if you haven't seen it before, and we know we have a lot of listeners, back in 2020, if you're on Stardom World, fire it up. 2020, Mayu versus Sherry for the World of Stardom Championship. 2022, World Climax Night 2, Sherry versus Mayu when Sherry's the champion for the World of Stardom champion. Excellent, excellent match. And then this past year, the 5-star Grand Prix had one of, if not the best matches of a loaded 5-star. This, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, all those matches I just mentioned were great. This match was better. This was their best match that they've had with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a big fan of their World Climax match, and I know that some people didn't like that match as much, but I loved it. I loved the story being told in it. I thought it was fantastic. Overall, though, I preferred this match. These two don't miss. There's partnerships in Stardom that you just know are going to work together. Mayu Iwatani and Momo Watanabe are one of them. Mayu Iwatani and Syuri are another. You just know that these two are going to hit it out of the park. And it was such a different match as well. How often do we ever see Syuri in a state of desperation? Like, Mayu kicks out of a Million World, which I believe one person has ever done, and that was Julia at Dream Queendom 22. Like, Mayu kicks out of that, and the look of genuine shock on Syuri's face is incredible. It's brilliant, and it really does... it goes back to that first match that they had together where Syuri threw everything at Mayu, and Mayu's alien-like resiliency ultimately won out in that match, whereas at World Climax, Syuri just targeted Mayu's injured knee and just basically tore it apart until the referee was like, no, you need to stop now. And because Mayu didn't let Syuri get that head of steam, and because Mayu didn't let Syuri sort of build up, she couldn't get a hold of it. It was like trying to catch water in your cupped hands. Mayu just kept finding a way to get out of it. And again, commentary did a fantastic job of building up the lore of this zombie Mayu and how Mayu's resiliency is her greatest weapon. It means she takes some hellish bumps. It means she takes some hellish punishment. But when she can deal it out the way that she did, especially here, and I can't get over just how different the abuse she gave Syuri here was. Like, when the Young Bucks hit super kicks and, you hear the famous thigh slap, it was making that noise off of Syuri's face. Like, there was no leg slap. Mayu just gave up trying to pull them entirely and just started full-on lamping this former MMA fighter. And it was brilliant. It was so good because it added such legitimacy. And let's face it, Shuri then started to belt Mayu as well, which was great, and probably where Mayu ended up with that huge welt on her throat. Fantastic match. I honestly, and I know that we are 4 days into the new year, and I'm sure when we get to the Yokohama Buntai show in April, I'll be raving about one match that they put on there. But I can't see anything in Stardom topping this year. I thought this was absolutely fantastic. Full 5 stars, and it's not even close.
This, you had texted me maybe when Wrestle Kingdom just started. And I asked you if you've seen this match. You said, no, not yet. And I said, Rob, maybe it's because I'm running on 2 hours of sleep. Maybe it's because of my love of these two wrestlers. This was 5 stars, and it might have broken the Stardom scale for me. Now, for you folks keeping track at home, the matches that have broken the Stardom scale are Mayu versus EO2, Mayu versus EO3, Shuri versus Julia from Dream Queendom 2022, Hazuki versus Saya Kamatani for the Wonder of Stardom Championship, and Kairi and Meiko Satomura versus Thunder Rock, Io and Mayu. So, again, I've been watching pretty much every Stardom match as it's happened for the last 2.5 years, but I've gone back very deep into the catalog and watched everything I possibly can. So that is a very short list in the near 13-year history of Stardom. I'm going to go back and watch it probably sometime later today when I've had a little bit more rest, because I really think I give it 5 stars. I may have to go back and give it, maybe it may break the Stardom scale and be 5.25. Now, I want to just kind of give away my, I want to talk about I was a little worried because that DDM breakup promo went a little bit long. It didn't need to, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, okay, both these companies are owned by Bushiroad. Obviously, Bushiroad are more concerned about the Tokyo Dome than they are Tokyo Dome City Hall. They're going to want to get people over across the street ASAP. Or are they going to rush Mayu and Shuri? Because that's what's going to happen. Because this whole entire card went very fast. We get to the co-main event. We know it was going to the TLD. And then we had the breakup thing afterwards, which, again, it needed that time. It really, really did. I was like, are they going to rush this match? So I was a little nervous about that. And then Mayu hit Shuri with the dragon suplex on the apron like 4 minutes in. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is going to go 9 minutes. And it's still maybe a 4.5 to 4 3/4 star match, but it kept building and building and building. And I guess this might be the theme of these Stardom shows this week, because you mentioned before, partner, with how stiff Mayu was with these shots on the hardest hitting wrestler in all of Stardom. Mayu almost out-Shuri'd, very much like how Gazai out-Oedo Tai on the outside with the counter. Maybe that's the theme that we're going for here. And you know, Shuri absolutely loved it. You know, that was probably her call.
It was probably
very
her
much
idea, yeah.
Yeah. And then she's like, you know, you better give it back to me. Like, of course. And as soon as this match was over, I tweeted out, like, I get asked a lot, who do I think is the best women's wrestler in the world? Obviously, my favorite is Io. We will not see Io be Stardom Io for a zillion different reasons. I'm glad she's doing well. I'm glad that, hopefully, fingers crossed, Rob and I see her defend the World of Stardom Championship on WrestleMania. This is gonna be an awesome weekend for us, brother. We're rocking and rolling here. But like and again, it's subjective. There's no wrong answer. Obviously, you look to Stardom. As great as Deonna Purrazzo is, and Charlotte Flair, and this person, that person, I look to Stardom when it comes who's the best women's wrestler in the world. It is subjective. Is it Utami? Is it Saya? My go-to answer, my settle, maybe cop-out answer is it's a tie between Mayu and Shuri. What Shuri's been able to do from 2021 until this match, and then what Mayu's been able to do since Kairi and Io both left in 2018, and the fact that she kept the company afloat in 2020 after Arista retired, after the passing of Hana Kimura, during COVID. She was able to keep a company afloat, and then having these great matches. You can make an easy argument that these two are the two best women's wrestlers in the world, and maybe top 5 or 6, two of the best wrestlers in the world overall. You know, you throw in your Okada, you throw in your Danielson, Ospreay, yada, yada, so on and so forth. And they went out there and wrestled like they really were. I know a lot of people, this might be, based on a lot of people I've been talking to, their first time seeing Mayu and Shuri. There's no way you're not blown out of the water. There's no way, because this match just kept building and building and building, and Mayu with the dive, and then we see suplexes, and then they're firing up, and then Mayu sells the way that she sells, especially towards Shuri, and then she just absolutely lambastes Shuri with some brutal moves. And I kind of figured, we did our predictions, we were talking about this, was like, kind of 60-40 Mayu. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if they turned the belt over to Shuri, but then Shuri's kicking out of all the big moves. She's kicking out of the suplexes. She's kicking out of the two-step dragging. She's kicking out of everything. And then she comes back with those brutal buzzsaw kicks. It was like, okay, Mayu, you hit me hard 5 times in a row. I'm going to hit you with 2 shots, but these 2 shots are going to be harder than the 5 you gave me. And then she sets her up for Vermilion World. I'm like, okay, well, Mayu reversed it earlier in the match, which was akin to their match at World Climax back in spring of 2022 when Mayu reversed into the Poison Rana. I'm like, she's not going to reverse it again. I'm like, maybe she's going to roll her up. And then she had her by the neck and then dropped her. And I was like, oh, no, is this the finish? But no, Shuri, who protects this move. Again, you were absolutely right, partner. Only 2 people have ever kicked out of it. Julia at the end of 2022 that eventually crowned to Julia. So you're protecting the finish there. And Mayu here. So only 2 people kicked out of it, but it's the right 2 people at the right time. And not only does it get the match over, it got the red belt over even more in the match with Julia, and it gets the IWGP Women's Championship over even more in this match, which it desperately needed, because obviously this belt, the way the lack of defense, the fact that it was not put on the Tokyo Dome, it's crazy. But we mentioned it before, it's not lack on the wrestlers. This, between the tournament and the matches that we've seen for this title, have been nothing short of phenomenal. So when giving the tap to, whether it's Kairi, whether it's Mercedes, or whether it's been Mayu, they put on absolute banger, must-see matches. And this was terrific. And the fact that the way that Mayu finished this match off with a dragon suplex, and then you see Shuri pop up for one last gas, Mayu hits her with a super kick to kind of stun her where she needs, and then hits the Rana for the 3 count. Unbelievable. Rob, does Mayu have a fancy name for that reverse Poison Rana? I thought she did.
She does a Fubuki Rana, but I think that might be something different.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought that I heard maybe Stuart Fulton call it something different. I could have been wrong, but you know what I mean. It's basically a double jump reverse Poison Rana that we've seen her hit a handful of times in her career. I mean, Mayu's one of the best to ever do it, and she's still in her prime. Shuri's one of the best to ever do it, still in her prime. And yeah, again, full 5 stars. This was no disrespect to a phenomenal Wrestle Kingdom card. We knew it was going to be great. It was. This was the best match of the 2 shows. For me, and I absolutely agree with you, partner. Now I'm going to put this out because Shuri did her post-match promo that I saw on Twitter, and she was mentioning about how she was so close to IWGP, and she wants a taste of IWGP. Now, Rob, if we just covered it about a half an hour ago or so. Shuri and Julia, the main event of the Triangle Derby pay-per-view, a lot of that match was based upon Shuri and Julia really going at it. We haven't seen Shuri and Julia go at it that much since their must-see match at the end of 2022, and they kind of teased something there. So do you think Julia, if she's headed to the WWE, which we think she is, do you think she drops the Strong Championship to Shuri? Do you think we get one more Julia versus Shuri match before Julia goes off to the Americans over here?
It could potentially happen. It wouldn't surprise me if they do. I know that they did Collision in Philadelphia last year. It wouldn't surprise me if they do like a Strong show over WrestleMania weekend, and maybe Julia will drop it there, because obviously Stardom are coming over anyway. So maybe they do something there. I know, and this is all obviously assuming that she isn't going to leave straight at the end of her contract at the end of March. If she does leave, we're not 100% sure yet. Let me get that out there. But yeah, it's an interesting time in Stardom. There's a lot of what ifs and maybes, and I wonder how this all works, which in a lot of ways is very, very exciting. One thing that I did like about Shuri's promo is the fact that she brought up Inoki's name and sort of just built up the prestige of the IWGP Women's Championship. Ultimately saying this still carries Inoki's name, Inoki's sort of legend, Inoki's legacy. And that's something that it has been missing since its incarnation. We've talked about it a lot. But just something like that, and really wanting it for a reason, not just because it's a top belt. I mean, Micah has come out and said she wants the IWGP Women's Championship after she won the red belt after Dream Queendom. She said she wants the New Japan Strong belt. Just having...
Greedy.
Absolutely. Honestly. God, you get one thing, you just take. But the fact that...
You're the best. I literally almost spit out my water.
the fact that people are desiring this championship and actually giving reasons and not just because it's a belt. You know, Shiori saying, I want this championship because it symbolizes Inoki for me, who is a huge influence and blah, 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 immediately lends some credence to the championship. And that is what it desperately, desperately needs. Hopefully, this match is a jumping off point for any other IWGP women's title defense. Obviously, there's no challenge been put forward yet for Mayu for V4, but we'll see where that goes next. And that just about brings an end to our show reviews. I just want to briefly look at the Stardom schedule, simply because I want to talk about what's coming up, because January, even though we have been promised and have so far been given a far lighter pay-per-view schedule, Stardom have still got a lot of shows to run. So next week, on the 6th of January, we've got New Year Stars 2024 in Korakuen. Now, currently, as we record, there hasn't been a card released for that show. So I'm assuming that announcement is imminent. You've got 3 back-to-back shows. That's on the 6th. You've then got New Year Stars in Nagoya, which is on the 7th, and New Year Stars in Anjo, which is the 8th, which is Tam Nakano's hometown and a place where she promised that she would turn up. So Tam should be there at that show. And then obviously we'll be live again before the next show. It is worth pointing out as well that the 7th, which is the Sunday, will also be Unagi's produce show at Korakuen Hall. So we'll be looking at certain matches of that, I am sure. Now, Matt, before we talk about what we're going to be looking at next week, which I've already sort of done, would you like to do your Io and Kairi watch?
Absolutely, sir. I believe, though, there was a match announced for Korakuen. I could be wrong, but it's Mayu and Julia versus Micah and Soriano.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I've just remembered that as I said it. Yes. Yes, it has been announced. That is right.
So, Io and Kairi watch, my friend. Correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't get a chance to view it. I believe it was just a year in review, so there was nothing there. I don't think there was anything there, my man. I think it was just these past few shows was because Triple H wanted to give time off for vacation, so there was no house shows. Raw was a clip show, and SmackDown was a clip show. If I'm wrong, let me know. I didn't even look on the DVR because I've just been so busy, even though I've been off work for 2 weeks. So if I'm wrong, let me know, and I will do a YouTube clip. So if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I'm almost positive it was just a clip show. So there is no Io and Kairi watch. But as of this recording, tomorrow it is Io versus Michin, also known as Mia Yim, for the WWE Women's Championship, which I'm super excited for.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, next week we'll be reviewing as many of those shows that are on Stardom World. Hopefully the Korakuen will be up because that airs on Saturday. So fingers crossed, at the very, very least, when we record on the 10th, we will have that Korakuen review for you. I'm hoping that we will have at least 2 of the 3 shows reviewed for you. We will also have the results of the Stardom Cast Awards that will go live on the 10th as well. And you can also check it on the website, www.thestardomcast.weebly.com. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have had a wonderful new year. You were all safe and all enjoyed it. And, of course, you all had a lovely Wrestle Kingdom day. It's been a phenomenal couple of shows for Stardom, and hopefully they continue this momentum into the new year. But for now, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all of that sort of stuff. We are everywhere. If you think we've deserved a 5-star review and a comment goes a massive way to getting us in front of more people. Thank you to everyone that has already subscribed over on patreon.com/the Stardom Cast. Don't forget that there will be a rejigging of the Patreon to give you more bang for your buck, to quote the Young Bucks, coming at the start of February. In terms of social medias, we are everywhere at the Stardom Cast, including on YouTube. If you want to talk to me on Twitter, you can. It's at Real Rob Goodwin. Matt Turner, sign us off, good sir.
Absolutely. Again, a big thanks to John Thurman over on Twitter, who sent me a message again in the middle of this podcast. Sorry if I was a little flustered. or came off as a little unprofessional, as I wanted to make sure that we got our Stardom ECW arena tickets before they sold out, because I think that they will. Also, I do want to make mention that when I clicked on the link and went on Twitter, I had a few people asking me questions as if Rob and I are going to be charging for pictures and autographs at the ECW arena, which I'm absolutely taken by. And I can't speak for Rob. I've never charged in my 20 years as a pro wrestler, never charged for a picture, never charged for an autograph. So no, I will not be charging. Whether Rob wants to charge you, that's completely up to the superstar author. That is Rob Goodwin. As I made mention before, he's the author of the book, Living the Dream, Stardom's 10th anniversary, in a review by one Rob Goodwin, that he does have. Boy, Not So Boy is in there, but the human Cadillac, Dorian DeVille, isn't. But anywho, I got all those plugs.
You
all
did.
in one.
Well done.
Unbelievable. Not bad for someone running on 3 hours of sleep. Folks, questions, comments, anything that you need from me, Matt Turner OF, on the Instagram and the Twitter is the best way to get a hold of me there. You want to shoot me an email, that's perfectly fine. The StardomCast22@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of me via email. Folks, thanks again for a phenomenal 2023. Is shaping up. 2024 is shaping up to be even a bigger and better year for us here at the Stardom Cast, and that's all because of you. Because, like I always say, it's just not my podcast; it's our podcast. Because when we're all together, everybody's different, everybody's special.